have a quorum present. We'll do business, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the payroll. Anybody have any amendments, changes, or concerns? I'll move that we approve the payroll as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have the minutes from our previous meeting. Anybody have any questions or amendments for that document? I move that we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And we have the claims against the county. Any changes or concerns there?
None.
I'll move that we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. First up, highway supervisor report. Thank you.
Okay. Item number one, I did notify Mr. Reese about our, what we had discussed, and informed him at this time that we, plan to keep the crossing the same, not do anything with them. He thanked you all for your time. If there's anything else that comes up that we want to revisit the issue, he's more than welcome to speak. So I'll just leave it at that. Equipment rotation, we checked that into a cooperative purchasing package that many government agencies are using. It's called Sourcewell. I believe there is a Du Bois County is a member, but I think we had looked through and I guess it's been quite some time back. We're making reference to the road grader. We had checked on some pricing. I think the last time we spoke, or at the last meeting, we were in the $560,000 range for a new one. This one here, there's two different ones. We'll just kind of pass these down here. But the Sourcewell discount, these are basically the same model. I think this one here has a little bit less warranty and a few options. You have the $549 list price, and then I think the Sourcewell discount is in the neighborhood of $160,000. They also currently have a discount that they call a 7-year ownership plan. If you plan to own it longer than 7 years, you're going to get another $59,000 discount. Well, we were to say that is great.
At the end of the 7 years or front?
Pardon?
At the end of the 7 years, you get that?
No, you get it up front if you agree that you're going to hang on to it for that period of time. Okay. I've never heard
Makes no
sense. It really does. It really does. So
Is that something Minnesota does? Since Sourcewell out of Minnesota is what State Board of Accounts told me about. So she said we can do this as long as it applies to Indiana law.
okay.
So is that, she referred us to the,
Well, that'd be-
so,
Yeah.
There'd have to be some kind of clawback on that. If you did sell it for like that, then you have to pay back that.
I believe so, but in our case, we're holding on to it for 27 years. So I don't see an issue with that. You know, I know we're gonna hang on to it that long. However, that particular discount, I think, yeah, applies if the piece of equipment is delivered by December 31st of this year. Okay? Currently, if they place an order, it gets put on a list. The list is 2 months long. Once your time is up on the list where they can send the order in, then I think you're looking at 8 to 12 weeks. So there's time in there to get it done in order to get that. But again, no guarantee. But I would
Assuming there's
think,
no delay, isn't it?
yeah, and I contacted the Caterpillar dealer that we deal with to find out, you know, look, in good faith, you know, we're making this purchase within this particular time frame. It should be delivered within a specified period, but like within, you know, what we've seen with our trucks. And I've got another issue on a compactor that we're going to speak of as well. There's no guarantee that even if we place the order in good faith, if it gets delivered, say in January of next year or February of next year, they can't really pull that discount, I wouldn't think. You know, I just don't know enough about it. So we're still hammering this thing out because, you know, we got to get something done on this older grader. I think with this here, I think if we can get the discounts, we're more in line. And I think it's, you know, it's a better purchase.
Where, if you go with the discounts, do you go through a particular dealer or can you go through the dealer that you normally deal with? Or
You can go through the dealer that you deal with. Yeah.
I guess part of me wonders why the dealer would want you to keep it longer and not buy a new one. And then I thought, maybe they want you to not make a secondary market by selling the product you have to give you $60,000 off. That doesn't.
Yeah.
It seems like a unique, odd situation here.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be different if it was $10,000. It's $60,000 from the dealer and $100 and whatever.
That's a
I
nice
don't get it. So what's the downside?
I don't see any outside of, you know, we don't have the money in place for this as of yet. So I wanted to speak with you this morning and see how you felt about this. Going in front of the council next Monday, also to discuss this and plant that seed so we can put the money in place in May and get this thing ordered if we can, to try to hit these dates and get that discount.
Now, these discounts are off the list price.
Right.
If you bought it outright from the dealer without going through Sourcewell, would there be discounts?
There would be some discounts. I don't know what those are. That's what I'm trying to learn more about this. We looked into this, I think a couple of years ago when we were doing trucks, but I just didn't get enough information to make me feel good about doing that. I have talked with other locals that are also doing this particular thing as well. They're having good luck with it. But like I say, we've got a little bit of time. I'm trying to find out a little bit more and feel good about it.
Well, my point is between the two of them, 160,000 or something discount.
164,000 and 58,000.
And 58,000. That's off the list price, but what is the net discount if you could get it, if the dealer himself would offer a discount? So we don't know what the net discount is.
Yeah, I tried contacting him late Thursday and I didn't get a call back yet, so. hoping to be able to talk to him today.
Greg, do we still need to, do we run this price against, open
So,
bid?
I mean, when you're doing a purchase, again, there are special purchasing rules if you're receiving a discount or you're buying off of someone else's contract. I don't know much about this, Steve, I'm sorry, but, that would allow us an opportunity to do that as opposed to doing the bidding process as we normally would to procure purchase. I'd like to look at it, I guess, and whenever you get a little more information on it, please share with me, we can discuss, make sure if other entities are using it. There's different rules, and we've done that before for special purchases, and that might fit.
When I called State Board of Accounts, she was gonna get back with me. And she hasn't. She just said this is a company in Minnesota, so they're using Minnesota law. She said, make sure they're following our laws and using Indiana vendors if they're gonna do this. So,
Okay.
Does sound a lot better than the price you brought us last week, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we're getting closer to the right number.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better about that. Plus, we do have a trade-in that would be applied on this as well. I think it'd be a 98 champion, so, 15,000, I would hope, more. Yeah, I'll speak with Greg on that.
But as far as from our side, do you need us to give you, some kind of approval or support to move forward with a purchase of under a certain amount or something, or are you still wanting to continue to look through it? I mean, so I believe as a board, we're not gonna fight, buying the piece of equipment that we're going to need. We just need to go through the process and find out the right way to do it.
Yeah.
How does the board feel? Any?
Unless you think it's time sensitive, you'll find out more in the next 2 weeks and come back.
It seems as though it's time sensitive, so yeah, we definitely have to get the money in place. Like I said, I haven't advertised or anything, but I'm just trying to plant the seed right now and get this thing done in May so we can get it.
There'll be a council meeting before we meet again,
Yeah.
so you may need to do something there, I don't know.
So he may need to advertise for $380,000, or get that. No, but I mean, bring it to them and then advertise for the next month, because that will still be before.
Now, the good thing about this is we've got a little over $100,000 of our highway money in my equipment budget that we can put towards this, so we won't be needing as much from the council, but we will need the help, so. But yeah, I'll speak with them and then we'll get together, first meeting in May and get the approval on that, so.
Yeah, I'd be okay with you asking the council to advertise. I don't know if we need to officially state that or not. Do we need to officially state something where give information to ask the council to advertise for the funding?
I don't know that it matters. I mean, it's our piece of equipment, so we can say that we supporting moving forward with the acquisition.
Yeah, I plan on bringing my 5-year equipment plan into them anyhow. It's something that
Okay.
I've done on a yearly basis because it gives them an idea, on planning on their part, what we're looking at. So this would be like a UCAP purchase.
Does anyone on the board have an opposition to continuing with the process?
No.
So informally, you're fine. Just keep moving forward with it, and I guess if you get the information you can, it's a piece of equipment we're going to need eventually. And we're getting closer to the right number all the time.
Okay. Next item is another surprise, I guess. Back in May of 2021, we bid a sanitation truck and a compactor box, okay? Sternberg International was awarded the chassis, and Packmore from Pyramid Equipment was the winning bidder. And basically, it's a single source item with the compactor. It fits all of our cans at the collection sites. We're kind of tied into using them because different brands won't hook up to those cans. So if we decided to go someplace else, it would be a mess. So they were awarded a bid of $83,225. I was contacted by the salesman from Pyramid last week saying that he's got some good news, he's got some bad news. The good news is the chassis showed up in Texas, which they won't start to build the unit until the chassis is on site. Okay? Bad news is it was supposed to have been delivered much sooner. Their steel prices went up 10%, and that's where they're looking.
What was the original bid price again?
$83,225.
And did the original, did we sign a contract with them and we approved that bid?
Yes, we awarded the bid, and we are holding a 10% bid.
And was there an, what do you call it, escalation clause? Can they go up 10% without?
Or was there a date on it?
There was
I guess were they allowed to do the 10%? That's the thing.
there was a date on it based on when it would be delivered from International. And International went, so long without, being able to supply a truck. So there wasn't anything that actually linked into, it's gotta be delivered on this date thing. So,
Once they got it from International, they said they'd get it to you within X number of days.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a deadline set for the delivery of the chassis itself.
they had something could be delivered within a certain time frame, and that time frame came and left. So I contacted Greg to find out, where we at in this. Typically we'd have to make them accept that bid, I would think, and if they didn't, then they were subject to lose the bid bond that they sent with the bid. So,
Right, so I got a copy of the bid bond, and I don't know if there's more to it from Western Southern, who's the one who provided it. Sometimes the bid bond is simply can be there to make sure that I deliver a product at the price that I bid it for. The other is that if I back out of my bid within that 60-day window before it's awarded, that bid bond can be utilized to pay the next best bidder. And that's what they can be utilized for too. So I don't know which one, it's at least the second one, because that's what they're always for. But whether or not we can utilize that 10% increase and say, well, that's fine, we'll take it out of the bid bond. I don't have an answer for that. And I know Ann had sent me some stuff on Thursday on this, that I was still looking. I think we need to contact that company. Steve and I talked too about a cost split with them. I know like on a public works project, you can have contingencies where, there's a change order. That usually doesn't occur with purchases because you bid at that price and that's what it is. But as we've seen in the past 12 months, it's a unique time. We couldn't get a truck delivered, and now we get a truck delivered, but everything costs more, which they probably didn't know about and we didn't know about either. And this was also, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, this was the only bidder.
right.
So it kind of falls into the special purchases we talked about earlier, because in order for it to fit to what it is we need to utilize it, there is. But we'd like to try to minimize this 10% increase and get rid of it altogether. Or have someone else eat it.
Are they trying to raise the price $8,300, or are they trying to raise the price, a subcomponent of that increase?
I was told
Or just
10%. So yeah, to me, that's telling me the 8,300. Now, whether we work something out with the distributor of the Packmore unit, which is Pyramid Equipment, and we do
5% each side.
5% each side.
7 to them, 3 to them, something like that.
Yeah, something where, the dealer would have to pay so much and we paid so much. If they were to do that, then I guess they get the bond back. I don't know, we just have to work something out. But,
So I guess just find out what our rights are, and if it's a deal where they're allowed to do this, which would seem like they would be allowed to, because the other bidders may have said, we're not gonna bid because we fear the price increases, and we know we can't pass them along. Maybe that dissuaded other people from bidding. Or I just think it changes the dynamic of the bid process if they can raise the price after they were awarded the bid. Unless it's part of the agreement.
Part of the agreement, so now that's why I asked about a date, or like you said, an escalation clause or anything like that.
On the second hand though, if we need the piece of equipment, they're the only people that can provide it, then what are we gonna do?
Well, yeah, they could back out of the bid, but then, as Greg said, we could use the bond to go to the second one, but there was no second one.
Correct.
So I don't know that there's any action we can take until you, I guess, find out what we can and can't do.
basically, it's a single source producer. So one way or the other, I guess they're gonna pack more themselves, is gonna need that 10% before they start on this, so. I'll speak with the salesman and see much more we go there, but I mean, it's gonna cost us any more, I mean.
It's just a bad deal, because what if at your restaurant, it's $10, then whenever they go to pay, it's $11, sorry. I got an invoice and it was more expensive than I thought it was, that's $11.
When you think if we bid it out, the price of steel, I mean, I guess it's not perishable. They could have ordered it that day.
Well, that was my
They've got
feeling.
the price
as well.
for it and had it on hand, and we're gonna use it built your piece of equipment, not, we're gonna order it when the truck gets here,
Mhm.
and now it's higher.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that's the chance you took, not us.
Yeah, so,
And in normal times, we would have that argument, now it's more really common business practice, unfortunately.
you know,
So, I guess we just have to find out if they can do what they're doing, what our position is.
I'm.
I mean, we need to have, that's
assuming
another piece of
about the only
equipment
thing
we need.
Uh,
It's another piece of equipment we need, or we wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Would have bid it, so we gotta do something.
Yeah.
Do you want something more from the board, or you're just giving us an update that we need to
Just
discuss this?
just the update, and I guess, if we have to pay more than that, I know we're kind of setting a precedent there, I assume, because these are assumed to be, firm bids, so, technically, if we have to pay more, you typically go to the bond to get that. So if Pyramid doesn't want to go into the bond, because that affects their rating as well. Right. So,
I think our plan would be one, we're gonna talk to them, see if they'll bring the price down too, and then just go after the bond to make up the difference. Because that's what it's there for, then we're not out of pocket, and we're still paying the amount that we had approved.
So you're not sure if they don't deliver, we can't have the bond as a damage?
There may be more to not with what I have in front of me.
Okay.
so I'll contact with them, and I'll stay in touch with Greg, and we'll keep on minding that right now, so. Next order up, I don't really have anything new, haven't had a chance to push more on truck 104, but we will get it out on social media and get that. Last order of business was, I did have a meeting with Michael Costello, discuss reclamation at the Shamrock Mine in Boone Township. We had some interesting conversations on several things, such as the reclamation of the road itself, 700 West, 750 West. We discussed, if there wasn't enough material there to reopen 750, it was obviously going to be basically a dead end at the turnaround at the southernmost portion of where the mine does cross 750. And I think during the dirt work portion that they're doing, I can get them to construct the groundwork for a turnaround on 750. So it's not a place where the school bus has to, is not able to turn around. So he
So
did
when you
mention
say
to me
that-
that a lot of the work that they're doing during the land reclamation can be done on some of these roads. However, they cannot build the road or, say put gravel on it. So if we did something like that, we would obviously go back to our surety bonds to put the stone on it. They can do a lot of the dirt work. But he said each one is going to be sensitive to where that bond is. So if you can see here, that's the entirety of 700 West that was closed and used as an internal haul route. Each portion here is covered by different bonds, so we could go to each bond and cover the gravel to put on here, and then here on the 750, there's a surety to get this taken.
Where are you saying a turnaround would be?
Probably up around in here.
And why would that be acceptable to us when it was never a turnaround before? I mean, it used to be a completely open road.
Yeah, if it sounds like the ability to close this up, it's just not gonna happen.
It's physically impossible to fill that hole right now with the dirt that's on site. Without digging a hole somewhere else, it's physically impossible to do it.
It's gonna
And there's not
it's gonna
enough,
end up being a lake.
and there's not enough money in all the bonds and everything else that's going around out there to fill it, to buy dirt from somebody else, or to build a bridge. There's physically not enough money there. So if we would want to make that cut through or finish it through, we would have to do that in-house for our own money. Because the mine has that through bankruptcy and all that stuff. I don't like the money's there through their bonds. There's not enough money to physically do it.
So that was the road, just for if I'm correct, that was starting to fall in. The board gave them permission to cut it, and then they filed bankruptcy 2 months later.
Yeah.
So we were losing the road, and you had it closed. I just hate to lose something that we had before. I know it's not the world's most busiest road.
And I agree with you 100%. I completely agree. I hate to lose it. It's we don't have the ability to build it back.
If they were an ongoing concern, we could fight it somewhat and say, you said you put it back in working order, right? I mean, that's the understanding, because the argument that you used to approve it was, well, if we let them cut it, then they will then have the ability to put it back together, because it's already damaged.
As they were going to continue mining west,
Yes,
they were going to rebuild, they were going to fill into the east,
Right.
and that would have rebuilt the road. But they've got a pit there now, and that's before it kills us. Yeah.
so I guess I don't like the idea of losing the road, and I don't know, again, it's not a road that there's not a lot of action on, but I hate to come up short, so.
Yeah, so my thought was if, it's not gonna be possible to fill the hole because the material isn't there and then all of the costs. And the surety that we have on that one particular area is like $83,000, so, that's not gonna go anywhere, but some of this money and some of the reclamation that can be done can go towards the protection of Portersville West, where, that hole had been inching itself to the north to take it out, so.
So if I'm coming on Portersville Road West and I go south, I'll drive 100 feet, that'll be a turnaround?
Yeah.
No,
it would be
Or let's
that.
close it all.
10 feet.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, so why put anything?
Well, we'll close that side. You won't even know there's a road
There
there.
won't be,
South.
the turnaround's on the north side.
It'll be if you're running up north.
South side of the pit, there we
There
go.
will be no public intersection at 750 in Portersville West.
You won't even know it's there.
Any discussion about a east-west road connector between 700 and 750?
There was a discussion on that, however, the landowners,
About a half mile.
yeah, the landowners didn't want to see that because they're trying to get as much farm ground back as they can. I mean, they're gonna lose a lot of it with the holes and everything. And I think we had spoken before about the idea of, maybe in lieu of losing the chip and seal road that went all the way through, maybe some of the money's gonna be used to chip and seal this one to replace the 750. So that's the other thing that we're discussing, so.
If there is enough material, there's not gonna be any problem with 700.
No. Now, we did talk about 700. I think the current profile is anywhere from 50 to 70, 80 feet wide. And that's in order for those big trucks to pass, going back and forth to haul the material. It's not in our best interest to leave the profile as is and maintain a gravel road that's that wide. So we wanted the profile down. I sent him a cross-section of our current standards, and they're gonna take a lot of that material and use it, so that'll generate a little bit more dirt to fill up some different areas. But we want the profile back to county standards, and then it can be gravel at that time, so.
There's not a single resident on 700, is it, from 580 to Portersville? That's all mining, reclaimed mining area.
Now, there were some, Gary Pride, I think Pride Farms was up along there, I think, there were several homes.
They were paid to remove them, right?
Okay,
So that's pretty much where we are there, so. Interesting report this morning. That's all I've got.
Brent, we're gonna hold you off and we'll let the sheriff come up and give an update if he's prepared.
Sure.
Number, I think if you look at the 2005 map, you can go up the layers and look at the 2005 map and you can see the homes that were there
on 7.
on 700 prior to there being the mining. So yeah, it looks like there's 4, 5 maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Brent.
Good morning. Good morning. I'll just give a quick update of where we're at right now. We are still in the process of hiring for a deputy position. I know Chief Deputy Monterez and some of the detectives or the sergeants and stuff are heading that hiring process. So they'll take their recommendation and they'll hold it, and then the interviews will go to the merit board, who has a say in also. And then they will both bring their recommendations to me and I'll pick. It's down to 2 employees and they're both in the jail. So once we get that deputy picked, we'll have a hiring process for the jail officer spot. So that should be, I would guess, within a month or so, would we think, that we would have that spot filled. The academy is scheduled for July right now. So hopefully we can get a spot into that, which we can't guarantee a spot until we have a name. So as soon as we get a name, we'll contact them and hopefully they'll get us into the Evansville Academy. Other than that, the part-time jail officer that we hired a couple months ago is working out very well. It was definitely a needed thing. I think we found out it was needed a little more than we even thought that it would be. So that's working out very well. And we'll just kind of keep going with that until we figure out whether we need to go with a full-time position or how we can accommodate that, or maybe we'll just keep it as a part-time position. So we'll just keep it as is for now. I'm looking at, we got a demo tomorrow, a webinar. It's VR, virtual reality training. There's a company out in Las Vegas that does virtual reality training. So there's only one department in Indiana that has it right now. It's at Goshen. We're going to do a webinar tomorrow to learn a little more about it. But I'd like to see it hands-on first. I did some research on it. They speak very highly of it. Give a little brief of what I was told, and I'll learn a little bit more about it tomorrow. But you can have, especially for the newer officers, where it kind of goes on to their how they react and how they talk So you have a trainer that is on the computer, that's the other person, and then you'll have the officer being the officer. And kind of how they talk will dictate on how the bad guy supposedly reacts. So it could be a shoot, don't shoot, it could be cooperation. So it's sounds really cool, sounds really neat, so I'm gonna do a little more investigating on that before I do anything with that, but I think it's one of the things that we're looking at right now. And then the last thing is probably the biggest one. And I know that I came in here a couple months ago about how we can attract and retain our officers. And it kind of went to a standstill. But I think, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but about a month ago, the Indiana State Police put out a hiring process, and they call it a lateral. So they're only taking officers with 3 years experience. That's what they're trying to hire. So they have to have a minimum of 3 years law enforcement academy experience to come over to be a state policeman. And they have to be under the age of 40, I believe it is. So they're really now making it very official that they're coming after our guys. And I think it's very important that we really take a good look at what we can do, because we have 9 deputies right now that fit the criteria that they're looking at. And they're not only putting this application out there, they're offering their troopers a bonus if they can get somebody from these departments to come there. So they're actively recruiting our guys. And if we would lose, not even 9, if we would lose 3 or 4, that could cripple us. We have a guy that's going through the academy right now, that's been hired about a year now. And it's like, it's not an easy process to hire somebody, get them trained, and then have them do the job. And we need to take a serious look at what we can do to make sure our guys don't leave once we get them here, and get the right guys. So I think I'm gonna present this to the council too and let them know in a couple of weeks. And I think what I'd like to do at that point is maybe reach out to somebody on the board here and see if we could get a couple of councilmen to just offsite, maybe come to a collaboration and meeting and see what we can do as we move forward. Because if they leave here, the calls don't stop. You know, the Indiana State Police don't take our calls for us. They're still gonna, the 911 call, they're still going to our dispatch. Our dispatch is still giving it to us. Right now, we're doing a great job. We're not using overtime. We're not burning our guys out. But if we lose 3 or 4 to something like this, I don't want to see our citizens suffer. And I think we have that responsibility to sit down and try to figure out what we can do as a group. So I'll send all the information that I have on that in an email in a couple of weeks after I meet with the council. And hopefully I'll get some money from the board that would like to sit in on that and have discussions about that.
I think having a collaborative effort between your people, yourself, your staff, and us is probably the best way to do it instead of,
Yeah.
because I think the last time you came to us and you said, this is what I want, and, you know, we weren't involved in that, so I think
Right.
by working together, when it's our idea, instead of your idea,
Right. And I
you'll have
agree.
more success that way.
I agree.
And yes, I agree, we want to make sure we have the best people we can have, and we retain them.
Yeah, I agree. The collaborative idea is a good approach to this. One of the, just off the top of my head, one of the questions that I would have for that group, you're probably not necessarily prepared this morning, but what does it take us to get an officer, hire an officer and get them to that level to where then the state police could recruit them? First of all, you said it's years of experience. But what I'm talking about is the expense of the academy and all of that goes into
So hiring a guy?
hiring a guy and getting him.
The academy
In other words,
is,
what do we lose for that?
if they take somebody,
Yeah,
well, you lose the experience, obviously.
right.
And then typically, like I said, we hired a guy that's going through the academy now, and he's not it's mean of me to say that he's not offering us anything, but he is being paid by us. He's going to the academy. It's almost a year process to train a guy in. And the rule of thumb is you can be a police officer for around 3 to 5 years before you are fully knowledgeable in your job. So that's what we're losing. We're starting over at day one versus we're having that 3 to 5 or even 9 year or 10-year employee. You know, one of our sergeants fits that criteria. They're actively recruiting him. Now, if we would lose him, that's huge. That's a 10-year employee. You know, it's not just that 3-year guy, it's that 3, 5, 7, 9-year employee. Because they can go all the way to 40 years old. So, you know, they can even go more than that. If we hire a 21, 22-year-old, he could give us 15, 16 years and they could take him. So, I mean, it can be detrimental.
Yeah, it's hard to put a number on that, I realize that, but you know, in a sense, that's what we're looking to do, is to put a number on that and say, this is what it's worth to the Du Bois County to keep these people in place.
In a sense,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't want to make that decision. I'd like a collaborative effort that we can all come to, and even having a younger deputy that voice his opinion on what's it gonna make. I mean, we can't, like I said, I don't know if we're gonna have anybody or not. I really don't. I hope not. But I mean, like I said, I went and looked at the application process and looked at, we have 9 of them that fit that. And I mean, do I think we're gonna have 9? No way. But if we did,
Yeah.
and if they don't this time, I mean, if the state police don't get enough recruits this time,
Yeah,
are they gonna make it a little sweeter next time? You know, are they gonna, I mean, what, they pretty much said we're coming after you guys. And that doesn't sit well with me.
I think they're actively also offering a $5,000 bonus for the new recruit to go with a new officer. They're coming after the car.
Because they're short, they're hundreds short.
Yeah.
You know, so they're trying to get their numbers up, and I get that. But the counties and the cities that are gonna give up 10 officers to go there are the ones that are gonna pay the price, and I don't want our citizens to pay the price on that, so. That's really all I have this morning. If you guys have any questions?
Just one question on something you said earlier, the merit board, the hiring process and merit board, in the top of my head, what legal authority does the merit board have in the hiring process? Do they have to approve, or do they advisory only?
They're advisory only.
That was just a question that I didn't know the answer to.
They're advisory only.
Okay.
I would just say that the sheriff and I and I don't know, maybe some of you were still in the construction process. Things seem to be going well. There's not been any issues between contractors. There haven't been, other than a few changes here and there that either are put on by our side or possibly the contractor doesn't see something different. It still seems like it's going well.
It is.
And
Very pleased.
I hear from other areas and from the architects that we have, if we were building it now, it would be many millions more than it was when we got in this process 2 years ago. So we're in a good position comparatively to other counties.
places, right?
Orange County, I think, is contemplating a project, and they were told, I think, 30% just in the last year. So you're right, and I agree that when I go to those meetings anyway, that everything seems to be flowing along. The only hiccup that, and I think it's a small one, is the electrical panel, and I wasn't at the last meeting, so I don't know whether that's resolved itself or.
I wasn't there Wednesday either. Did they talk about
He's
these?
talked about it, but he's still calling and harassing them, and I think we're gonna get it in plenty of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would, in this climate, it's amazing to me that that's the only
Right.
big issue that's going on.
Yeah.
Knock on wood on that one.
Yeah.
Steven from Harold Fish or what is whatever their company is, they're they bought everything they needed right away. And so they said that the only problems that they're gonna have is if we change something. If, so if we need something additional to what we originally did, they've got everything that they need. So they were being proactive and started buying early. So it seems like the process is going as well as it should be. I think that's what I've got. I don't get anything from you, Commissioner Ronstadt? No? All right, thanks
Guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, 8:45 fun run. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Lane. I am the local county coordinator for Du Bois County Special Olympics. And I'm coming before you to ask permission to use the sports complex, the county road out on, around the sports complex for our fun run on September 17th. We are going to the city meeting next week to get the approval of the city. This is the application that we had to submit. Our waiver and form that participants will sign is attached. Again, it's on September 17th. We can use the current Jasper Sports Complex, which uses county and city property. So we're coming before you to ask permission to utilize those roads on September 17th from about 6:30 in the morning till 11 o'clock.
Have you been in contact with Mr. Berg there again this year, Steve? Have you been in
Yes.
contact with them again about approving the
Rose
road?
Twisty call you,
About who?
Rose Twisty call you about Special Olympics fun run.
Oh,
Steve, it's the same path that,
It's the same path we take.
so I want to make sure it's okay with the two of you before we move forward with it.
It's the same fun run we did. It's the roads around the sports complex. Is it ring a
Yeah.
bell now?
yeah, I got it, yeah.
I was gonna say, I think the only thing we haven't gotten approved is the city approval because their meeting is until next week.
Yeah,
It's the same path that we took last year.
So as long as you coordinate with them, I have no problem with it. I would thank you for running the event, and I would support it. Any other comments from the board members?
Absolutely.
I'll move that we approve the use of county roads for the fun runs to the Du Bois County Special Olympics on Saturday, September 17th.
I'll second.
And I guess for other discussion, what would the time frame be for the road closure?
The
Or is it
walk,
going to be closed or is it going to be?
it won't be closed, we'll just put slow walk signs around.
Okay. And what do you think from,
The walk sign starts around 8. So from probably 8 to 10:30, just depends on how fast. I mean, we have Special Olympics athletes that participate, some run, some walk, so. We have from 6:30 to 11, but we're just anticipating if we have some slow ones.
that sounds fine to me. I don't have an issue with that. So we've got a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So at 8:50, we have a county service award discussion. Before that, I guess, Brent, how long is your section going to take? More than 10 minutes? Probably. Okay, then I'll go ahead and do my part. So I put this together in a little bit more of a formal package. These are the Community Service Award, County Commissioners Excellence Award, whatever you want to call it. 2 pages for each of you there. And so I just kind of formalized it, updated it a little bit, and I put together an application or nomination page. So if you want to look it over, you can, and we can discuss. For anyone in attendance, or just for the record, the commissioners are considering developing a Community Excellence Award or a Commissioners, well, we don't have a name for it yet, but just something to recognize people that are kind of some of the unsung heroes in the community, people that work on boards, or maybe they're just volunteers, or they work for a local nonprofit organization, just something where people, just an opportunity for people that help make Du Bois County great, just for them to be recognized. the way I have it written is recognize individuals or groups for their outstanding community service, service projects, leadership, community improvement activities, volunteerism, and anything else contributing to making Du Bois County great. And the award would be to highlight specific achievements in service, contribution to the quality of life in Du Bois County in the spirit of civic engagement. So we just have some criteria that I put together, and at this point, I don't know that the board would be ready to create something, but it's an ongoing process where the other commissioners can give feedback on where they think we are so far. This was something that I thought about the first year that I was a commissioner, thinking, I think at that time we looked at the one of the conservancy boards, but I think was something where these people had put in unpaid work for some of them decades, and nobody knows who they are, and they're just people that put efforts into the community, and nobody knows who they are, and they never get recognized for their service. And there's also people that serve on things like the 911 board or volunteer firemen, and they're the unsung heroes that when you make a phone call or you need something, these are people that pick up the phone and serve the area and make it great to live here. And this would be just one small way to recognize them possibly. So Commissioner Brown, we'll start with you. Do you have any thoughts at this time?
I looked through the criteria and all of that, and I think it's good. I don't know that I'd have any concrete changes to the criteria and what it is that we would be recognizing. I think it's a good idea. I agree with you on the unsung, recognize those people that are serving in various capacities and not getting recognition, and they're not doing it for recognition, but to recognize them occasionally. So the only question really that I have yet would be, you mentioned the name of the award, and maybe Du Bois County Commissioners Community Excellence Award is sufficient. I don't know. Is there an individual, for example, that we could name it after? Would there be that one special, maybe the first commissioner or something like that, or somebody that served a long period of time that would be worthy of the name? The other question I would have is would it be a regular annual award? I think you do put that in. You have that in there somewhere. One per year, maybe two the first year. So would it be awarded at some event or just maybe the certain meeting of the year or something like that? So a couple of those details maybe need to be spelled out.
I just threw in a generic date of July 1st for nominations to come in, and then it could be maybe a month later. But as far as making it a special occasion or a special event, I didn't do that. So would you like to chew on it till the next meeting? We'll put it on the next meeting for 5 minutes again until we get it hammered out.
Okay.
Sounds good. I do appreciate you working it. It's a good idea.
You as well.
Good way to recognize individuals that don't get recognized.
And what you may recognize, what my intent was to keep this very simple, keep the criteria very simple so that it was open to as many people as possible. Because maybe it's just a coworker that does some task that you think he's recognized. I didn't want to make it exclusionary that it was only nonprofits or only people that do work for the government, or I want to keep it very open. And at a minimum, if somebody took the time to nominate you, we could send you a letter and say, hey, somebody nominated you and they thought that it's a way to recognize everybody that gets nominated too. So if somebody thought enough of you to take time to do this, and we appreciate what you're doing, and we can select one person out of those nominations.
And it could always be tweaked as we move through it and see, for example, if we get 25 or 50 nominations a year, we may want to put a committee together to pare that down before the commissioners themselves actually make a determination. But that's just, let's see if that happens first.
Okay. So Sandy, would you please put that on for 5 minutes next meeting, and we'll do it again? Okay. So thank you for considering that. Next up, we have at 9 o'clock, 4-H Council.
That's me.
You're the whole council?
Well, I'm gonna pretend like I am for a few minutes, so.
The best part of it.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. My name's Janelle Hassenauer. I'm president of 4-H Council. I've actually brought a couple of other people with me because once I explain, they're gonna better answer questions. As president, my goal is to kind of look at the grounds and the safety and the ways that we can improve them right now. So I just wanted to update you on a couple of projects we have going on. Number one, thanks to a handful of donors in our horse and pony area, we have a practice arena that is actually gonna be compliments of donors upgraded to a full-sized National Barrel Horse Association racing track that can be used, and we're estimating that that's approximately $50,000 up to in donations to upgrade that track to be used. That actually helps bring in a local race closer to our kids around here, so they don't have to travel as far to do so. And we have donors that are taking care of that. And then our second project that we're hoping to have your blessing on, we're looking at the grandstand and safety down there. And we have a couple of things we'd like to tweak and change around the grandstand to help increase our safety. And I have a map. We want to add an additional driveway to help emergency vehicles get in and out if they were ever needed. And then it would also help the flow of traffic that one way was always in and one was always out, so that it's just not one way nonstop. So we felt like that was really important as far as safety if we ever needed quick emergency vehicles down there. And then we want to do some improvements. We want to change some of the dirt to be not so rocky and sandy and more dirt. We want to add tile for water drainage purposes. And we have donors for that we're estimating right now that donors are giving us approximately $100,000 in labor, materials, supplies, and using their machinery. So I have a couple of guys I have Chad from our buildings and grounds if you have questions. And then I have a couple of our Cerise Stephenogel and Andy Schwenk, who are two of them willing to help us. And then I have Gavin Durkles, who is a former 4-H council member who also has kind of helped keep on the grandstand to keep it safe. But they'll have answers to your questions more so than I will. So we're asking.
Right here, there's nothing currently, right?
Where
This back road,
that back road is there. Do one of you want to come up here? This back road is here, but where we're wanting to put in the new drive is coming out of here, so we'll have to take out some trees. And so we know that if we adjust the grounds, that we need your approval, your blessing.
okay, so this is rock now? This
That's
one
a
is
rock,
back
okay,
there?
so that goes way back into a field,
Uh-huh.
and that does not touch. They're looking to put a drive-in, like keep this here, but we're looking to put a drive-in here, which is gonna take some of that trees down so that we have a tree back here. We want to add it here, so that's always in, and then we're gonna
You're
Okay, so-
you're
so-
talking about this.
here,
Correct,
here,
so if you flip that over,
and then put it out.
so this
Like
is,
right now,
this
this
is
one
just
drive
an
is the only way in
accumulated
and out of
budget,
the grants.
just
So if
stuff
there was
that
an emergency, you might have people.
So
coming
we
out.
have a lot
There's
of
a small
small,
building there in
we will.
You find people
keep
turning
that.
it two
We're gonna
angles,
come
turning
right
it,
behind
turning
that.
it, yeah, everybody can
You
go.
can't, it's
This
a traffic
all-
jam.
Okay, so you're not, I was thinking you were gonna do a wrap around, so they went in a completely different direction.
No, we just wanna add
It's
another.
basically a
Facilitate
bottleneck.
when we
Yes.
Not here.
No, it's all
To get
back
people
here on
in and
this
out,
side.
it's always a bottleneck right
This
here,
is
we're having
one
one
time
time,
that
we
we
charge,
talked
we
about,
don't know
and
who's
then
paid, who hasn't paid.
Yeah.
So basically, what we're
Yes.
looking to do is.
Yeah, it's the only way in and out of the whole
Utilize
grandstand
this new
right now.
grandstand we put in, that we just
And they
have
try to,
really
bring
facilitate.
people in there too.
A lot of our events are in the center of this arena, so
And
basically
it's
what
right
we want to do
about-
is bring everything
You wanna come
close.
look? Sorry, I think you might have another copy, but,
Use right there.
so we
You're our
probably,
engineer guy.
this
Make
person
drive
has
right
also.
there From a safety standpoint, obviously.
The price
And then also.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just
Very
to
easy.
allow it.
We have some other things we're working on, and this kind of fell into our laps, and we're like, sure.
And when you talk about the one way, this is there.
This is the old driver we will keep, and that would be where it is. For tractors, for the tractor pull, anything that's going on instead of this will lines it.
Yeah,
This
it's
will
really
allow
not
for
bad
us to
in
charge.
my scale.
You have this here for admission, up here for admission.
You
But
do,
during the
Am I
fair,
right?
we can't utilize any
Yeah.
of this charge
Yes.
because of.
because if you look,
Right,
So
that's-
basically, this
that's
is
what
gonna.
I'm saying, you're not.
We can't do
if you look, you're in and out ground is there, but,
Congrats
and
on
then eventually if they.
And
all
in
the
addition
other
to when
actual
we do,
tractors, what
when we
happens
do
is
move this,
they
look
come
at this
in
picture
and
here, I do go to make this nicer.
Does that make sense?
Driveway.
we want to do, we want
There's fence
And then
here
in the
on
meantime,
there.
we're gonna.
And what we're hoping is, this will be part of council, part of what they'll use fence for themselves. We're gonna move this fence over or take it out and have new put in. And then we're also gonna put a fence here to keep the public separated from the area.
Here's the draw.
Keeping anybody from getting hurt, anything, you know. And it basically allows us to charge more efficiently. Because our problem now is, well, the biggest problem we have is, once we do have the drive-through and make it a little more fluid, where we can charge, I think we're gonna be able to show a better profit.
We're gonna do it.
We just can't regulate people coming around now because it's just so easy to walk in and out. So by doing this, I think we're gonna, like I said, Andy over there, myself, a lot of other guys are involved here, a lot of their time, a lot of
The activities and events that happen.
we felt it necessary to bring it in front of you guys and let you know. We're just trying to make it look, I'm gonna tell you, my year as president was kind of COVID. We had chapters there last year, so it got laid out.
Charlie Daniels.
We had so many.
Charlie Daniels, where does he say?
Nice. And it has the potential, once it grows, really. Brings a lot of it does. It's a good thing, it just needs a little improvement. Like I said, a lot of this is just junk. We're gonna get rid of a lot of scrap metal. We're gonna clean this area, get new bent tires, get this where it's nicer. And just make it function better.
The only, narrow racing area, you're just going to expand that, to the.
Basically, we're gonna make it down here. Am I right on that? Well, is that what we said?
For the kids to practice in.
Oh, that's how yeah, that's already over. Yeah, that's going to basically just put it on here. Yeah, no,
It's not really,
I don't.
could be a little larger, but not.
We're trying to keep everything in its own area. Force and home is there. We have grand centers here. The problem that we have is a lot of this donated money and time is specific to certain events. You can't allow major modifications to it, because then it affects some of our bigger families. So we're trying to facilitate for everybody to have their box or able to do things. You know, obviously with the concerts and stuff that they want to have there, as time goes on, people can afford it. We're gonna have more things where we're gonna utilize this grandstand. That's the biggest trap of this. We're not using these grandstands the way they should be. And that's what we're trying to do. Well, I mean, I understand that. No offense.
That's anybody's fault.
No, but this is a big driver on my part. We've all agreed that it's a shame that they're not being used here.
We'll bring it in. It's tight real fast.
Yes. Basically just moving it. But in order to do that, like I said, you gotta do some modifications.
I appreciate your input, guys.
It's a lot. I don't know about that.
I appreciate it.
Yes. Do you have any other questions? We'll do our best to. Thank you.
All right, let's kind of bring it back together. We'll back everybody up. Keep it a public meeting. Thank you, everybody. So if you guys want to stay up, we've had 3 or 4 different conversations here. Is there anything we need to say publicly so that what was happening down there, we get to hear?
Basically, I was just bringing Elmer up to speed on probably exactly what you were talking about also, just the main reasons why we're trying to do these modifications, just to make it a more functioning space.
safety, fluidity with from the standpoint of, getting admission money. It's hard to regulate with multiple entrances where when we get this condensed, get it to a point where we can do that, I think the money will reflect it as well. So just improving it. It's been long needed, and like I said, we've got those really nice grandstands that we're just not utilizing like we could, so.
And Chad had a question as far as doing this, bringing in other stages. It'll be more open closer to the grandstand this way, won't it?
Well, it's open now, but the big thing is just getting everything closer to those grandstands.
Right.
Now most of our events are out in the center, and if it not for myself and some other, guys on council that have that ability to bring portable bleachers. For 10 years, I've been coming to Jasper, pulling bleachers with my own pickup trucks, getting bleachers moved in, and this isn't something that any average council member can do. It's just been, I wouldn't say it was just expected, but it was just like, so-and-so will pull them out there. Well, the city of Jasper is not allowing us to use them anymore. So we really have to get this done because now we're paying the city of Ferguson to rent said bleachers. It's really not necessary, so.
And it's the arena type events that you want to
Correct.
bring
We're just-
closer to the grandstand.
Yes, concerts, if there's ever concerts. And this could be a space that's rented. You could have no different than what they're doing out here on Toyota with some of these big concerts, that are having out Evilers. These are things that can be done, just to get some things happening down there. Because anytime I have anybody come in from out of town, they compliment us on the facility. It is a great space. He and I both do similar things. We travel a lot going to different facilities. And I always say that we probably have one of the best, if not the best. So there's a lot of potential. We just need to open it up.
Anybody else?
Well, I told these guys, I appreciate the work all of you put into this. And sometimes it's a thankless job, but we're appreciative of the fact that you do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as far as giving them any consents or any thing to move forward with, is there anything, would we need additional drawings? Would we need something a little more concrete than this? Or just say, as a general purpose, we would approve of these kind of modifications?
I'm okay with the presentation that they gave here this morning and what I've heard. I haven't heard anything that I would have a problem with.
From an engineering standpoint, you have any issues with the little limited amount of this?
Just based on the 10-minute conversation, it makes sense of what they got designed. I agree with it, but we were discussing other routes, but you came into a headache or a problem every other route that we had. This is the best to come up with. You want to keep your drive as wide as you possibly can, but other than that, that's the only comment I've got. What they've got makes sense.
I'm comfortable with moving forward.
So, I don't think I would, I don't know that there's anything that would be gained by holding off in any way. So I'll make a motion that we give approval or consent for the modifications as they've been presented to us.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So as long as it's roughly what's on here, you're good to move forward. If it's going to be anything more extreme than that, then please let us know. We'll talk again.
Good.
Thank you.
Everyone today.
Thank you. John, you want to come on up? Mr. Warner is here to talk about, I think he has something to deliver. You said you had something you wanted to.
Annual report, and then just to get your guys' blessing on the surplus items.
Get that over with. Let's do
That's
that.
right. This is just our annual report for this year. I wanted to hand out just so you guys had it. Do you want me to go through it, or just you guys can look over it? If you have any questions, get a hold of me, or
Well, tell us if there's any highlights, and at least that way publicly it'll be be out there. Anything
I just go
particular
page
you'd like?
by page and say what that page is, and then if you guys want to review it and go through it, then.
Let's do that.
So the first one obviously is just the organizational chart, that's our staffing, but you know who's in what role. The second one is basically the same thing.
Can you tell me any more about your internships before we move on? How's that working out?
So we had two summer interns, Megan Diekler and Rylan Rusher. They are both done. Rylan was for her master's program. She did a immunizations type survey for us. And then Megan helped out with COVID and those types of issues that we had during that time. So they both helped us out tremendously, and we're well worth having them. So.
You gonna have any, do you have some this year?
Nothing in the books. Rylan had reached out to us, wanting to find a local source to do her master's program, and it worked out well. I mean, we're always open to internships if we can accommodate them. It's not like we have it in our budget, but during that time, we did have some COVID grant funding that we were able to pay them for their services. But if somebody wants to just get their master's done and they need the hours, we could always try to find something for them to do. But
It's not a program that you go out every year
No.
seeking anyone.
No.
If somebody reaches out to you.
And then the next one is just the Board of Health, and then the list of staffing as well. And then our PRNs are also listed there. And at the bottom there, it kind of shows how many temporary workers we brought on in 2021. So we had 35 temporary nurses, 23 COVID clerks, and then we had 45 volunteers to administer all the COVID vaccinations we did at middle school and all of our pods. The next one is just the financial report. Basically the incomes, revenue from each department, and then your expenditures. The next one is the financial report gives a little bit more detail on each one of the funds, the balances and disbursements. The next one is our environmental section. Shows the fees we collected and then the number of services that we provided down the list there. Vital records, also again the incomes, and then how many births and deaths we had in the county. Next one is immunization, the same thing. And then the second last one is our shot counts that we gave by month. And the last one is just the preparedness report and other items at the bottom.
So can you tell me about the home health services? What does that all include?
Home health, so we have 2 home health nurses that will take referrals from doctors. They'll go out and do med setups, blood draws, lab draws, wound changes, wound care, nutrition and education. Basically, most of these individuals are homebound, they can't get out to seek services themselves, so we try to provide them services in their home to keep them at the nursing home as long as possible. So that's been a service we provided for many years in the county.
And that only works through a physician's referral? A person couldn't reach out to you and say, my mother needs.
They can, the physician's referral usually is for something medical type, like a Coumadin check or, a blood draw, something like that. If you have an elderly parent or individual in the community that needs some type of assistance, they can call, and if they qualify, we can add it to our list. They have roughly 50 to 60 patients they can handle between the 2 of them, so we don't have a vast list of individuals because we can't accommodate that many. But if you have somebody that needs that service, they can always reach out and see if they can add them to the list.
Thank you.
Appreciate your, a little off the chart here a little bit, but appreciate your participation in the career cruise that took place, what, 2 weeks ago now, something like that. I was out there for a good part of the day, and I know it was a well-attended event, a lot of vendors and so forth that, I shouldn't call them vendors, but participants and County Health Department, Markey co-op with you, I think, at that table. And
Yeah, Mark invited us.
hopefully it went well from your point of view.
I think it was exhausting for our staff, but they said they talked all day long, but they had a good time. A lot of kids come through there, and it was like 600 or 700, yeah.
Yeah, 600 or 700, yeah, something like that. All of Du Bois County 8th graders came out to the auxiliary gym at Jasper High School. And gosh, I don't know, was there 50?
Yeah, probably 40
or 50
organizations.
tables, industries, businesses, and so forth that set up a display, and they went around and visited all of them.
And the other item I thought was of note is almost 46,000 total number of vaccinations provided for adults and children. So that's a significant amount. Again, the reason I wanted to go through this a little bit is just for for the public that listens, to kind of get an idea of what you're doing out there. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah, last year was a busy year for SHOT, that's for sure. We're still doing them every day in the drive-through, so if anybody needs a COVID booster or flu shot, anything, we're still open.
And, COVID, I don't know that I've seen it in the media, I haven't, the local media, that case counts and percentages, or what kind of traffic are we seeing at the local site? What kind of numbers are we having? I mean, is it non-existent, or are we just not hearing about it?
It's definitely still out there. They're seeing an uptick on mainly like the coast, East Coast, West Coast, because it's coming in from other countries. I think I seen the other day there's about 30 some states that started to have like a 10% rise from the new variant. There are still people getting tested, but it's kind of hard to determine now because there's so many at-home tests. And I think that's the way the world's kind of going is, get away from the PCRs and the testing sites and go at-home test kits. So it's hard to determine when there's millions of test kits out there. You run one at home, you don't report that to anybody, so we don't have any idea really anymore, other than I think they're kind of looking at hospitalizations and those types of things. They're even doing surveys on checking wastewater to see rises in COVID within the community. So there's things out there they're still doing to try to monitor it, but the state changed their dashboard. They're not doing daily counts anymore. They're doing like a weekly type average. So, I mean, it's still there. You still want to be, aware and safe when you're out there in groups and stuff. But as far as, numbers here locally, I can't give you a good idea because the at-home test kits make it very difficult for us to determine because those are not trackable.
And does the Ruxer site is the plan to leave it open for how much longer?
June 30th will be the last day it'll be open. That's when the grant expires and the funding will be up. And I don't foresee, I know we don't have funding at the health department to keep going, and I don't foresee the county wanting to continue to fund it. So I did get an email from the state the other day that they are now going to make health departments available to hand out at-home test kits too. So we filled out the survey that we would do it just to provide that service to the community, because when the testing site goes away, we want to still provide that ability. So I don't know when those are coming, if they're coming. It's the state handling that, so we're kind of out there first.
Is there an expiration on those of how long is it, like a year for the tape?
It all depends. Sometimes we get a box of rapids in and they expire in 2 weeks and we have to use them pretty quick. And sometimes they're a couple of years. So it depends on what stock they want to send us on what day.
Got it. I don't think I have any other questions on the annual report. Commissioner Hofstadter?
I don't have any.
Commissioner Brown? Nope. Thank you for sharing that.
Appreciate it.
And next we have some surplus items. What does the board has probably seen the email? What is our next step on that? The unsalvageable items have been discarded, the broken things, the junk, and then a few of the items that were usable were donated or moved around a little bit. Clipboards and file folders, did the schools take those?
Yes, I have a school to take the clipboards and the file folders.
What about the remaining items? Do you have a suggestion on those? You just want them out of your facility?
Basically, yeah. I mean,
So the typewriters are probably junk.
nobody
Nobody
wants
wants those. The other items.
And some of this stuff is not even available yet until we go through the cabinets. Like most of those metal file cabinets, we're gonna have one here or two there whenever we get the files scanned into our EHR, and then they're gonna be available.
So you pull the files out, scan them, empty them, once it's empty, it's available.
Yes.
And did
But
you
I
say
need to know
that
what you
they,
want me to do with them.
the St. Vincent's, will they take them? They just won't pick them up, or do
They
they not
won't-
even want them?
They won't pick them up because it said they really don't do that anymore. So it's either me taking my time, resources, and fuel to drive out there, or
What about restore?
same thing.
Okay, I just knew that sometimes they pick up.
I doubt they will. I mean, there's just no value in this stuff. It's old tables that are
Probably
stained.
more value of their metal.
The cabinets, file cabinets, 7 5-door and 4-door are metal. There's one little 2-door one. The 2 typewriters are nobody wants. There's an iPad stand, or not an iPad stand, it doesn't fit an iPad. Tablet stand that's in good shape yet. The wooden bookshelf, the back is falling off of it. The bulletin board, the cork in the front is all bubbled up. There's a little mirror, TV stand that is just an old wooden TV stand. I mean, or no, the TV stand is actually the base of a flat screen TV, but we have it hanging on the wall, so it's just taking up space.
I would say that probably, let's just get this over with, and as they become available, I would say, if you wanted to ask Carla, they'll come pick them up. They can recycle them or put them in the, what do they call that thing, the reuse.
Reuse, yeah.
Second chance, corral.
Second chance,
I
correct.
heard, I had the word corral in my head.
Last trick.
Last
Last chance.
Last chance, there you go.
They passed the second.
I think that, so I mean, I'm fine with him doing we declare them surplus and he can get rid of them as we have, but if it was up to me,
Solid
solid waste,
waste,
deal with
salvage, Jasper salvage, or even landfill, whatever. I trust that you'll make the right call on it.
Commissioner Hofstadter, thoughts?
I don't care how it gets rid of them. Get rid of them.
I move that we declare the items on the list presented to us surplus for Mr. Warner to get rid of in the fashion we discussed.
That's like,
Anybody else have a discussion
Nope.
on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Warner?
Should be it.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
We have a department head meeting this week. Is there anything that the board would like to discuss with the staff of the department head meeting?
I think from me anyway, I mean, I'm sure you've checked with Sandy and Marky and all.
Yeah.
The appropriate.
Okay. We just have 5 minutes until our next agenda item, so I'm kind of seeing if there's any miscellaneous items we could look at.
Just backing up just a minute on that, perhaps the cybersecurity, I don't know that we'd be ready to discuss any of that with department heads.
We probably want to tell them that we are in that pilot program.
That email that we got this week maybe could be shared with them.
So they did send us a letter that they suggested that we could share. I don't know if I opened the attachment, but I did review the rest of the email. And I do think that that's a nice point to bring up, that the Indiana Executive Council on Cybersecurity personally thanked us for their support, for our support, together with the city of Jasper, as the first communities in the state to participate in our cyber ready community pilot program. So I'm looking forward to it. I see only upsides for us. So
Yeah, at the department head meeting, it might deserve a mention. but it,
Does it
details to be,
varies,
yet to be determined.
thousands
As to how they will be involved in it, and,
I'm going just short of
I mean, we'll probably
Because I think I
discuss that a
paid-
little bit later.
that intersection. It looked like it was paid, and then I think 100 is the same thing. We're just.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any miscellaneous items?
See where you made your millage or not. We're more, I think, at rate.
We are gonna start using the bond money to pay for the construction.
I think if we got the.
And I guess we
time, we're
have
going
to-
To the intersection.
The affidavits,
As we discussed.
government affidavit for payment,
Yes,
You know,
so
that
I
intersection
didn't know
or
who signed it.
paved.
the board can sign it.
And those two together, I'm pretty sure I'm just staying.
Yeah, we start
between
using
the two
that money
going
now.
into the intersections, okay.
I'm holding to that because I'm sitting here.
Right now, the other.
Ours are kind of running out.
I will go with that. We got,
Well, we
eventually
have
get
one.
them anyway, but
Hopefully.
we were running short of time the other day.
Kind of surprised you, but it just finished.
Good run.
So,
Mr. Schneider says, I so-and-so, two blanks, being sworn upon my oath and acting authorized representative of the building corporation.
Right, so under the building actually under the trust indenture itself, they defined authorized representatives as the board of commissioners, the auditor, and or any one of those three members of the building corporation themselves. Probably from practical and ease of access, this board would be accessible. It can be signed by the president and attested to by the auditor.
And does this is just, our way of telling Old National we approve them letting it release.
They need their
funds.
paper trail to say we've received claims and now we gotta get them paid.
That's from him.
Right.
Because we knew we were getting close on funds, so I reached out to Shannon and asked her, and this is what she sent us.
They created that document. There was, I think, based on the number of other projects they service.
So as soon as we receive claim, we'll prepare that, send it to them, and then they'll pay the bill.
And are these the claims I've already
That's what,
reviewed? And
yes. That's what we use.
so generally, every time that a claim comes through, I review it and I'll tell the auditor that it's approved, or I'll find out what's wrong with it and have
So
them
really,
correct it.
once he says it's approved, maybe I should just sign off and do it, but I didn't know. This is our first one.
From this source.
I'll hand it down, let
For
everybody
this
take a
source of
look at it.
revenue.
Pardon?
I said, well, once you tell me it's okay, maybe I should just sign off and say they're fine, but this was the first time we're using the bond money, so.
I guess I feel a little uncomfortable that it says that whoever signs it is an authorized person of the building corporation, because I thought those were separately
They were,
incorporated.
and so I looked into that and I even reached up to Veronica and confirmed that you guys are defined as authorized.
And they're okay with that, so, okay.
I thought the same thing at first.
It can be, we can go the other direction, but
This would be,
We
I
just-
prefer this direction.
we meet more regularly.
Yes.
Sorry,
Do either of you have
meet more
a
regularly.
problem with us continuing the same way we have been? I'll continue to review the invoices.
It's, good. Best way to do it.
So the invoices will come to me, I'll approve them or review them and get them corrected, and then I'll sign off on it. Or actually, I guess we can let the auditor sign off on after my review.
I'm gonna double check and make sure that the auditor's office was listed. I know that the board of commissioners is. My thought was that the president would sign them and then Sandy would just attest to that signature.
And that's fine too.
And just for clarification, what you're approving is that we're being invoiced for what we've already approved to be done.
That right, there's no additional monies coming into it, it's just a part of our
I'm just
contract.
gonna start spending the money that we have in the bond fund.
So there have been some changes.
My point is, and just for the public awareness, the board president is not approving without entire board weighing in on additional expenses that we hadn't approved previously. It's just that you're approving that this is what we approved and moving forward with it.
Anything over and above what was in our original contracts would go through a different process.
Right.
Okay, so we'll do it that way, and I'll sign it, and I guess the auditor can tell me when the paperwork is available, and I will come down and review it and sign.
because you'll get these.
But
We'll get
they
to
don't
it.
always come at the same time, do they? Most of the time, they're pretty close. Okay. So next up, we have
And I'm
the,
sorry, it is the Board of Commissioners of the county or anyone designated by the building corporation.
Mentor Alley dispute. We have, listed on the agenda Otis Craven and Ken Brosmer. So I know nothing about this, so whoever wants to come up and start the conversation, let's.
Yeah, my name is Otis Cravens. I live, just west of, Bird's Eye on, 1000 E. And, I'm having a heck of a problem of getting the ditch dug out along the 1000 E there. For some reason, I'm having a big problem having that dug out. It needs to be cleaned out. It hasn't been cleaned out in probably 15, 20 years. And I have stopped in Mr. Berger's office. I think isn't your name Berger?
Yeah, Berger.
I've been in there, you know that, to see you, but it makes notes of it and nothing ever happened. I'd just like to know why the ditch can't be dug out. But I have seen the machinery that does it in that area several times.
Where is the ditch located? I've got
1000, about a mile. Well, my wife here, she can show you on the ditch that.
I was gonna say, I've got the.
Step up there with the thing, honey.
I just wanna make sure I know where you're talking. Is it along the train tracks or along the road?
Yeah, trucking for the train tracks. I'm up on the highway on this stuff now.
That's
And
what
there's the
I'm
ditch,
sure,
so you
I
can't really tell there's a ditch there.
So you're standing on 64?
Yeah,
Roughly, and pointing back here, and your home would be over here,
yes,
like at the end of the thing this way.
Yeah,
And
my
you're
land
talking about
runs,
this part right here.
yeah, this here, right here.
Mhm.
That goes
So
down to
basically,
there.
right now it's just a swell, and it has,
Yeah,
grass growing in it. It's a ditch with full of grass, but it's a very
Yeah.
limited ditch.
yeah, it was dug out a long time ago, and then we had to put a tile underneath our driveway because it was running across our driveway.
So you put a tile down in this area
Right.
probably.
Yeah, it's right down here behind this here sign, you know, that, we live back this way, that's our drive.
Mhm.
And it's right there, right from the ditch on down to where the tile is.
And for the way it's working currently with grass growing on it and whatever, what's the water doing? Is it pooling down at the end by your driveway or what's it doing?
well, I've got a little sewer that I paid the county to put in probably 30 years ago. I paid the county to do it, $400, put in a sewer for my driveway. And the grass and everything, it gets cut and everything, and the leaves get in there. And Townsend tree trimmers were up there, and it's a narrow road, and they were way over, and they have mashed the dirt into the ditch there. But my concern is, it seems to me like when you go over the railroad tracks, there's about a quarter of a mile that if there's a gravel out of place, the county is there correcting that. I see it myself. But I can't get a little ditch dug out.
Okay.
I'd just like to know why.
All right, we will continue the conversation here. Mr. Brosmer, do you have a comment on this area or do you know what our?
That's not what he presented to me when I.
We thought that was a different issue.
Yes.
What was your thoughts?
When you came to me, you were talking about an alleyway.
Well, I've
In the
had
winter
trouble
subdivision,
over
that's
that.
what I had Kenny come for.
Yeah, I've had trouble over the alley too.
Yeah, you
There's
didn't mention
people
the
there
ditch
that
to
just can't understand, comprehend that there's a 12-foot alley there. I've had that problem too, but that's
But
nothing
that's
to do
what,
with
that's
the ditch.
what I put on the agenda and had Kenny come for was the alleyway that you discussed with me.
Okay, so let's deal with the alleyway too. What are you having an issue with an alley? Where's there an alley? You can show me if you wanted to, again, if you got a picture of that. So we got 1000 East. That space there, okay,
It's an unimproved alley, 12 feet wide, just grass,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
It's just grass.
People hear you.
So it's still
They can't
open.
hear you.
We can't find out that it's vacated. So it's still an open alley.
Yes.
Yep.
Uh,
So
Surveyors, certified surveyors has surveyed it, and they say there's a 12-foot alley there.
Uh-huh.
I don't wanna build no building in the alley or nothing of that. I want permission, I want to be able to get behind my fence, maintain my privacy fence. Cause I got some nosy neighbors.
Okay.
I'm not hiding anything, but I just don't like to be, I just don't like people Toms.
I saw the survey, everything looks good, the alley, it's just unapproved and it's been surveyed off, so.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
And we wanted to keep it an open alley, you know, we just don't wanna claim half of it, let somebody else have half. We just wanna keep it open, you know, to where they can mow it if they want, we can mow it.
I
No
don't wanna be the
problem.
only one using it. Everybody can use it. I just wanna maintain my fence, that's it.
But our neighbors don't see it that way.
Is your fence on your property?
Yes.
Yes, it's on the line,
So
yes,
the alley is behind your fence?
yes, yes.
Okay.
I have a picture where people build on the alley. I mean, you know, nobody complains about it because Manor's never gonna become a city, I don't think. But, I can show you.
Sure.
This is the end of the alley. This is one end of the alley that's facing toward facing toward,
So it's like anywhere else in the community that has these, if Du Bois County said, some future commissioners said we want to put a road through there or an alley, we come through and we would have the right, and my understanding would be to remove the trees, remove whatever's there to make that happen. Until that point, probably nobody's gonna even notice. That's inaccurate from the highway department's history. Those, because we have a similar situation up in Portersville and other places where it was platted at one time, but it'll likely not be developed in our lifetime.
Well, I hope it
So
don't.
you don't, so Mr. Cravens, on your original, on this issue with the Mentor Alley, as far as with that, you can do what you need to do.
But I just wanna maintain my fence, that's
Yeah,
all.
if you wanna mow there and maintain
Yeah.
that, I don't think there'll be an issue from anybody here. If anybody disagrees from the highway department,
You made a reference that your neighbor doesn't agree.
yeah, well, her son, he lives in Tell City, and he's the one that caused all the trouble. Had the sheriff's department out there and everything else, pulled a gun on him, handcuffed him and everything else. And we were completely in the right, but they chose not to believe us.
About
And that picture I showed
about
you.
your fence, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, he was up there mowing, and
Oh,
her
mowing
son,
the alleyway,
and her son told him to get off of my mom's property.
okay.
And it
And
wasn't
I was in the alley with my pickup truck putting stuff, this was just prior to my fence being put up. And some of my truck was in the alley, and I was putting some mulch around the tree that's on me, and they come down and get your truck off my mom's property. And she run down there with an old, some kind of water can back gonna hit me, and I told her, you hit me and I'll smack you, and I would. And they said, well, that's a threat, so they called the police here, they, 8 Du Bois County sheriff's office come out and had guns on me, and they're like, I have my back to them, I can't hear very good.
And I was trying to tell that
And,
deputy sheriff, I said, he can't hear you, he can't hear you. And I kept screaming at him to turn around, because I was scared to death he's gonna shoot him, you know, because he didn't hear it, he didn't turn around. But they failed to believe anything we said. They took her word no matter what. And it was very aggravating, you know.
So the dispute was over whether or not
Yeah.
you were on
He can mow.
They did. Well,
property.
I had had my property surveyed by Brochman, state certified surveyor. And if his survey is not right, then I guess none of it is. So, but that's all I want to do, maintain my alley. And my main reason for being here is I've been in West Berger's office down there, trying to get a ditch dug out up there, and that's it. I don't want to cause no trouble or nothing, I just would like to see that ditch dug out. It's been a long time, 20 years probably since it's been dug out.
okay, thank you.
And the county has dug it out. But
So Mr. Brosper, on this alley, it's 12 feet, right? Between where his property line is and another person's property line. So
Yes.
either party could be in that alley if they wanted to be. So as long as you've got a survey there that if they probably staked where your corner is.
yes,
So you know, if you're further than 12 feet, you're probably trespassing. They don't want you over there, so you just stay within that 12 feet and you're probably fine.
I will not
So
be
that's
on that
good.
property. I have no reason to be on that property.
No, I think we're in good shape there. And then on this other issue, Mr. Berg, can you talk to what the county does in these situations normally?
Yeah, in that situation there, we've had a lot of rains where it wasn't good to get in there right away. We've had a lot of pipe replacements that we've done. We're also working on something on Jasper Du Bois Road. We took some bad spots out, so they've been really busy. But I did mention something to the foreman about it. They just haven't got up there, but I will promise you by the end of this week, we will get in there and we'll get it open. Okay.
So, you've checked, we've got right of way, this is a ditch that we maintain, it just, so, okay. And did you have something, ma'am?
Yeah, I was wondering, who do you talk to about putting the stop sign up somewhere?
Us in the highway department.
Because that Chanel Road there, where you come down from Manor Cemetery, there's a stop sign this way and a stop sign the other way, but the through traffic, Chanel Road has it, but when you're here, you can't always pull out because there's a hill, and there's a hill, you can't tell, you pull out, you have to sit there for a few minutes to see if the car pops up over that hill, and I'm just wondering if by chance that can ever become a four-way.
And where is this, on the cemetery road?
On the Snellville Road.
Snellville at 1025.
Okay. So what is there? Oh, is this where we had that flashing light?
It's to the east of there. It's a very east part of where you get out to 64.
You're talking about between Chanelville Road and State Road 64.
No. Well, on 1025 east and Chanel Road, that intersection is what you're talking about.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
So that's only east and west where there's stop sign, or
North south they stop. East and west,
It's open.
yeah, is open, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's dangerous.
I wouldn't be
there.
interested in putting a stop sign there myself. The board could discuss it, but I don't think I think that would hurt the traffic flow.
Correct.
The only thing I was wondering, does somebody have to get killed before it happens?
Sure would hope not. I mean, has there been accidents in the area? I've not heard of any.
Not on the road that I know of, but the house.
The problem is coming from Birdseye, there's a dip there, and when you come up there and stop, if you don't sit down there, so you're gonna pull out in front of somebody. And believe me, from Birdseye to Jasper Garage down there, the speed limit is only 45, and a lot of, about 3 places it drops down to 3, and 30 mile an hour, and I guarantee you drive 60 and there'll be people passing.
So that's probably not a stop sign issue, that's probably a law
That's a
enforcement
law
issue.
enforcement, exactly, yes.
So, no, hey, but thank you for coming in. The highway department said that within the week, they will be out there to do something with your ditch. Is that right, Mr. Burke?
Yes.
So if they don't, then you can give us a call and we'll see what happened, but they said they'll take
Well,
care of it.
there's no rush on anything, but I've been fighting it for a long time, about 12 years. I've been in and out of that office down there a few times. But it gets, what gets me more than anything is across the railroad tracks, a quarter of a mile down where some people live, they don't let a gravel get out of place down there, but they can't dig up my little ditch.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in.
What road is this ditch on?
1,000 east.
1,000
East.
south. 1,000 east. 1,000 east.
I don't think it's hopefully they can keep a copy of it. They can show the neighbor. Okay, 9:45, we have a solar park discussion for 10 minutes. So,
He's been in my office.
So what are we doing?
I mean,
You have to let it take.
Right, I did. I was just right next to him. I said, hey, it's not for But I just, it is the same guy for this one.
I'm surprised he's not in here.
Well, I'm sure he'll come. That's why I wanted to tell you. And I told, like, he went and closed off. I just said, he can do it. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know.
sounds good. I think I've got enough of it, but there's just somebody anyway, let's talk about solar park discussion here. So there was some discussion at a previous meeting about doing regulations or what we can or can't do in that area. And Mr. Schneer looked at it somewhat, so I'm sure he has something to, I guess I'll just ask you before
I think some of our limitations of the discussions we've had before is that we don't have zoning or planning commissions. Comprehensive plan, things of that nature, is usually the roadblock that I think we would come across. As far as them going in there and road use agreements, or even I think you shared with me, the decommissioning agreements, those are things that we could look into, but even within those, they talk about those boards, which this county does not have. So I think we're somewhat limited on how we'd be able to control it if we could at all, whether you call it something different or not, if it's regulating the use of land. Zoning.
The name doesn't matter, the action.
It does not, you can call it whatever you'd like.
So Mr. Schneer, though, I heard that argument from you or that thought, and I looked at the Senate Enrolled Act number 411, and did you have a chance to review that as well? That's the
Is that the one that just passed?
Yes.
It's going into effect, I think, July 1, yes.
Yes, so what I found in this, because I want to be cautious that we're not enacting something that we don't have the authority to enact, but the way that I was reading through that, it's basically 20 pages, this chapter, and the first 10 deal with solar, and then the second 10 pages.
Other way. Wind was first.
It's what I mean, yeah, the first 10 pages were wind, and then they changed the word wind out, put solar in, and repeated everything almost verbatim in the second half. And a couple of the highlights here, it says that these are default standards for commercial solar energy, and for our community to be a solar energy ready community, we could, our unit could voluntarily accept these generic standards. And these standards are set forth in those 10 pages. And this is only for commercial solar regulation. This would be for, if you wanted it on your house, this doesn't regulate that. This would be if you create it on property A and you're going to use the energy on property B or send it somewhere else, that would be, that's working. That's something else. If you're using it for your own purposes, this doesn't hurt that. So it says, the things that I found interesting were, commercial solar regulation refers to any ordinance or regulation, including any zoning or land use ordinance or regulation, which we don't have any zoning, but we do have some land use regulation. And that, so I guess, Mr. Schneer, the thing that I find interesting about this, it says ordinance or regulation. It almost seems like you can have zoning or you can have this other thing. To me, and maybe I'm looking at it completely wrong because it's saying zoning or. So what we would be the or. We don't have a comprehensive zoning plan, but we do have.
And what is that for the R?
Land use ordinance.
Land use ordinance.
Or regulation. So I would, again, I can't practice law in Indiana yet. But anyway, to me, it seems like they're saying that there's two different routes available. You can have zoning or you can have regulations or land use. Maybe I'm not. And further down, it says a unit may adopt and enforce a commercial solar regulation that includes the following things. We can be as restrictive or less restrictive than what's in here. And it says, the overall thing that I'm seeing here is it says it has to be 50 feet from this neighbor, and it has to be so many feet from a structure on that neighbor, and it has to be so many feet back from, the front.
Those things are in the Senate bill.
You're right, Senate bill has all this laid out. So we could say that, we don't need 50 feet in our community, we could do 40 feet if we wanted, but they don't want you doing 70 feet because then it'd be different than what's in here. But it says here that this chapter does not affect a unit's planning and zoning powers under this code. So I don't know. I thought it was just something worth looking at, and I would prefer to have something in place before somebody comes in and they start putting everything on the property line because we don't have any zoning. And it's right. Somebody has their home already built on their property line, and like this guy, and then they put it right up next to it.
But they couldn't do that because of the state regulation.
But this, you have to voluntarily adopt this.
Yes.
This is not code for everyone. This is if you adopt these per unit. And, I mean, in the future, I would assume they're going to probably.
It's not limiting a unit's ability to plan and zone. It's just saying, here's an alternative. You could, in a city unit or some other unit, could make more restrictive requirements or say they're not allowed in this area, this zoning area. So then they have these as the default. I guess is the way I was reading it as well. Then.
If we accept them, this could be a default, right?
Yes.
Or we could choose to do nothing and pretty much people can do whatever they like. So, I mean, how do we feel again?
I had a brief discussion with Mr. Hall from the ICC board. We had a meeting last week. And my interpretation is just kind of what you said, that we don't have planning and zoning, so we would have a difficult time putting in standards other than what the state, what is spelled out in the Senate bill. I was a little unclear whether we have to adopt the Senate bill as a default standard or whether that automatically goes in if we don't adopt something else. So I was a little unclear with that. But I kind of think that's the most that we can regulate is what's in that Senate bill. Unless they want something out of our road, our infrastructure that's not already available to them. Or if they come and want some kind of a rebate, or not a rebate, but abatement, there we go, an abatement of some type, then we can put various regulations on that abatement. I guess some of them are coming in and there was a discussion between a couple of different counties there that they were granting abatements, fairly generous abatements, and in turn, the solar company was then contributing to an economic development fund for the county. Others said they are refusing the abatements in lieu of so they're not getting the economic development funds, but they're refusing the abatements. So there's a different school of thought. See, when this company comes in and the land use is going to change, it's going to change from ag land to commercial land of some type, industrial or commercial land of some type. So the value of that property is going to go way up. The assessed value of that property is going to go way up, which you think, well, that's a great thing because it's going to bring more tax money into the county. But it is our levy that is regulated, not our rate, but our levy. So what it's going to do is not bring more money into the county, not appreciably more anyway, but it's going to lower the tax rate for the residents of the county. So that's the discussion you get in when you start talking about abatements and stuff like that. But as far as control, unless they're asking for an abatement or wanting some use out of our infrastructure, our roads, and we don't provide weight limits or whatever it might be, I think the state standards is probably all we can regulate what's in that Senate bill. And for the most part, I think that's probably sufficient.
So would you say if Mr. Schneier reviews it and he says that we can voluntarily adopt this, you'd be in favor of doing that? Or
this being the state
standards.
I think
if that's necessary or not. If it's an opt, I don't know that it's an opt-out. I mean, it's reading as though unless it's provided in this statute or then it references what is the planning and zoning statute, meaning that if you've already got that in place, you can do your own thing. Otherwise, these are the default standards.
So these are the default standards and we adopt them, and then let's say 15, 20 years down the road, the county does countywide zoning and the standards change. Are we roped into the state standards at that point?
I would think we could change them. But there's the purpose of those statutes are, again, the advertising, the notice, the public hearings and everything else that goes into it, to be able to adopt something different.
I think it brings to a point that has been discussed in Du Bois County for many years, is do we need planning and zoning? Is that a direction we ought to be going in? And I kind of think it is. Now, I'm a short timer and I can throw my opinion out there on that, but I think it's something the county ought to be looking at.
They looked at it many years ago.
Yeah, it was back probably 15 years ago. Is that something like that?
Chad read about it in the looking back section, right?
Yeah.
25 years.
ago.
Was it 25 years ago? Gosh.
Right, because it's 20, in the Herald.
It
25,
starts at
50,
25.
Yep, so it's at least 25.
Okay.
That's when they voted it down. Because remember, I brought it up and we said, why was the council voting on it? Because that's how the
Yeah.
paper read, that 4 council people voted against it, 3 were in favor of it. Maybe that was for funding. So, Mr. Schneider, so do you, when I'm reading this, and I didn't copy the whole thing here. It says chapter 42, default standards for commercial solar energy systems to become a solar energy ready community means a unit that has voluntarily adopted the standards set forth in sections 10 through 20 of this chapter. So I think that's the introduction to the chapters, that states that. So are you thinking we don't have to adopt anything? And these standards are the default?
That is the way that I interpreted it.
If that is indeed the case, then I'm satisfied with that.
More comfortable, but I will confirm that further.
I'd prefer having something in the, if that isn't the case, or if it makes no difference, I'd prefer for this board to make a affirmative decision instead, if that helps, to adopt the standard.
The board may be more inclined to go with the defaults. We can't do a full-blown planning and zoning before July 1. It doesn't sound like that. It won't.
We won't.
That the defaults is better than nothing whatsoever.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So yeah, if you can tell us next time,
Yes, sir.
Sandy, we can put that on for 5 minutes, solar park determination or something, report from Mr. Schneider, so we can know what that is. Okay, so anything else on that, anybody?
The company, the solar company has not approached or dropped any hints that they will be applying for abatements or anything like that in your conversations with them?
They will be asking for abatements if they do the project.
They will be, yes. Okay.
So then the residents pay,
But then what?
then that makes the residents pay and not.
I was talking to Mr. Kleesner about it, and I think they will sell it in such a way that they say your tax revenues in this hand will go up this much, and we're only asking for you to give us this much out of this other pocket. They're gonna sell it in a way that
It comes in negotiations. It does.
that it looks
We've
like.
got I know Becky has worked on the abatement process for the county. We've got an abatement process in place, but there's still room for negotiations within that process.
As I mentioned to them, well, what if the county council says no abatements? And then they say. The impression I got was they don't say no because we show them all the benefits. They didn't say that, but that's the short version.
We have a scoring process in place. Our scoring process includes a lot of criteria. I know one of them is the number of jobs created. I have a feeling that there's not going to be a whole lot there for a solar park. So I guess depending on their scoring would depend on what kind of abatement they're eligible for.
Short term during construction, a lot of jobs, long term, 2 maintenance jobs.
And most might not be county jobs, those might be travel down here from Indianapolis jobs.
The big change is that assessed value on that property goes way up. It goes from ag land price, which is $1,500 an acre, to excess acreage price, which is maybe 10,000. I don't know, six to 10,000. I don't know. So assessed value on that property goes way up, and the county and/or the taxpayers in the county benefit from that. I'm not encouraging an abatement, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying that that's going to be the part of the discussion.
I think there's more to learn, but we need to have if there is some action we need to take to have something adopted for land use, and we can, and I think we need to do it sooner than later.
As part of the solar ordinance, can we put something about road usage on there during construction?
Probably not, because
Can we not include that?
because
anywhere in
we
the
would be
ordinance?
using the default standard, so
We
unless
can
it's-
we can do the default standard and add to it, correct?
Well, again, I think we're adding to it whether or not we have the authority through a planning and zoning board to do.
Was that, I wouldn't know if that would be planning and zoning.
Correct, it'd be utilizing our existing infrastructure.
So Brent, I would argue that we would just do that in a separate ordinance, whatever those same things are, which would apply to every business, not just
It
solar.
could be weight limits, it could be.
Right. I would just think with solar panels, which is a very popular thing that's gonna happen, if we can stay ahead of our road, just from me and Steve being selfish kind of, we wanna make sure we protect these roads.
You're representing the county taxpayers.
And I just, not necessarily singling out solar, but I can see solar being a big disturbance. We try to catch, all the other ones coming in, but solar, I'm afraid, we won't be able to stay on top of it if, because we have no planning zoning, we won't know what's going in until they're already there and gone. So trying to catch them after the fact could be rough.
During the construction process is what you're concerned about more than anything else.
Yeah, loads are already in there, and then we're trying to come back and get a rookie screen out, so it's a little tough. So.
Yes.
Because,
I thought you want to create the second part-time.
is there any other discussion on the solar park situation? No. Okay, so 9:55, we have a agenda item, VSO create second position. So I don't recall why I wanted this on here exactly, other than, Cindy, is there something that we currently have two people working out of a single position?
No, we have this, the Community Foundation has given us the second Veteran Service Support Fund, and you wanted to be able to create a part-time officer to use that money, because I've advertised for the council.
So I know that we asked for the money, I didn't know if we had to determine to use it for staffing or for material or. No, I mean, I think that's what it'll be.
You had a conversation to create that position, and I've already submitted it to the council, so next week they're gonna discuss funding that position at a part-time rate, but you have to create it before they can.
Gotcha. So I guess the reason I'm not real clear on it is because I've been working with the current veteran service officer, and I think the goal was to bring in the new veteran service officer, let that person get their feet wet, see how they feel, and then determine if bringing in a part-time person on maybe the same days or alternate days than what the office is open would be, if it still makes sense, because I think the direction that Gary Love was going was that's what he was going to recommend, that the office now is open 3 days a week and pay a part-time person maybe come in the other 2 days a week, just to keep the office open and do what they do there. I don't know, how does this board feel? Do we want to go ahead and create the second part-time position just in case this person wants to bring them in? Then they would have that availability to bring them in and to pay them from the funds that are coming from the Community Foundation, or do we want to wait until the current new VSO makes that determination?
My impression that we were waiting for the new VSO to take office and make that determination. Gosh, I'm trying to think. What are we on our third VSO or second? Yeah, this will be our third VSO in the last roughly 3 years. One of them decided that we needed the additional help. The other two did not mention it. So I think, in my opinion, I would like to wait until this new VSO takes office, see what their opinion is, and then go from there. I'm not opposed to creating the positions, but, I just want some more information from the VSO first.
So part of me thinks we could create it and they can still make that determination.
If we create it, it's there, they'll fill it. That's my
And
opinion.
I think I agree. I think I want to have that person come in and give the rationalization as to why they think it should be created. We heard Gary's rationale on it. I want to make sure that that person still agrees with that same or similar rationale as to why that position needs to be created before we actually create it. Now, I'm a little unsure if on this funding, you're saying the community foundation is going to provide
Well, the
funding
community
for it?
foundation there is an endowment down there that
Yes.
we can do the monument and the veteran service officer. There's two funds created from that endowment.
Okay.
They are already in place. The monument work is already. And then the other fund is for veteran service office support. So we can do what we want with that fund.
And can the current VSO be funded out of that fund or whatever portion is available? In other words, that's not strictly for
No,
an
it's
additional
for the foundation has said it's for our use of what we want, as long as it supports that veteran service office.
Okay.
So we've already appropriated some money for computer equipment. We just haven't purchased it yet.
So creating that second position is not dependent on whether we get this money, or getting the money is not dependent on creating it.
We already have the money.
Okay.
And the council has already moved.
The council has already created the fund. It's already, and we've gotten our first draw from them.
So what would
Second.
you mentioned if we created this position, Dave, what action would the council have to take then?
Well, they are going to
For
fund
salary
the
ordinance?
position for salary, a salary ordinance, and benefit line items.
Okay. No, I'm fine with holding off on it as well. We'll see what happens, but I mean, we're in a good position that we have funds to do it. If the new VSO agrees that there's a need.
Now, she could have other needs, and it can fund it that way, but we have to appropriate it to the council.
Different idea as to how best to serve that office.
Now, the other thing with those funds are, they can go back, we can transfer them. If the monument needs something big, we can transfer if the VSO fund has it, or vice versa. If the monument fund has extra, we can those two funds are interchangeable.
As a side note, I checked it out whenever they were doing work on it, and they had some of the blocks removed, and it's really a neat monument in that it seems like it's almost like a Lego block, the situation where they start at a white base and they just keep stacking interchangeable little parts in, and then they kind of, they don't glue them together, of course, but I mean, for argument's sake, they just glue the pieces together and they can slide out a single piece, and they've replaced the bad pieces. They've done all the mortar. The guys did a nice job on it. They cleaned it up. And the gentleman that I spoke to said, this is pretty new. Well, how old is this thing? And I said, oh, it's 130 years old. He said, wow, this is in so much better shape than, I guess he was talking mainly about the soldier at the top of the monument. He said, this thing is in really good shape for being, especially that old. I guess they're around these things all the time. But it's a neat thing, and it's looking good.
What's our timetable on the fence and the guns coming back? You guys know?
No, I got an email in Jaminski about getting the prices in. I was actually going to talk about that during mine, but not prices, but getting their schedule. They were hoping in May was their goal. So they're still on schedule. The fence is almost done. The guns are complete. They actually look pretty legit. They look really good. All the details back in them. They got covered with rust, the paint. They lost all your details, so that kind of came back. So it's moving. It's just slow until we get the wall put back up. Everybody's just gonna hang out. We're gonna find a place to store the guns and we can find something, and then bring it back when everything's done.
Yeah, because the guns and fence don't matter until the
Walls in.
the concrete's done.
Right. Yeah, but I gotta call in to Jaminski. Hopefully they'll get it here sooner than later. But it was always gonna be May, so
Okay.
I'm hoping they can sneak us in sooner, but I'm not
But the
guaranteed.
guns are okay, they're redone.
Yeah.
I was really worried that they were gonna start blasting away at them and things were gonna start falling off.
They held up really well. Given Roxford,
They did have several that you hang on, so.
yeah, Given Roxford said they didn't have any issues or anything falling apart. The wheels fell apart, but we knew that was gonna happen, so we got those replaced. They look really
By the wheels, you mean the tires,
with the
the
wheels.
wheel itself.
The wheel itself had holes in it. We pulled the rubber off of them and they had holes about that big all the way around through them. So they obviously weren't gonna hold air anymore. So we had to get some new ones. But Du Bois County Tire worked with us on that. They found us some stuff, so.
Cool.
Great.
So no action will be taken on the creation,
Right.
then the council will know that.
There's no position for them to fund, I guess. So. The other thing that was brought to my attention, and I think it's an interesting concept, Gary said, or asked, would we consider establishing a volunteer steering committee as a layer of consultation advising between the Veteran Service Office and the commissioners? If, maybe have it where there'd be 3 veterans on that and they could help guide the mission and the vision of that office with the new service officer. They could advise and mentor the new person and provide quarterly briefings to the commissioners. So, I don't know, I thought that was an interesting idea because I've been excited about that office here recently and there's a lot of positive things going on and I'm hearing positive things from veterans. I'd like to keep that momentum going, and I think having a set of a few extra eyes keeping an eye on the office and reporting back to us, I think anything that gets tracked or continually looked at get better attention paid to it and probably have a better chance of succeeding. So I thought it was an interesting idea. I want to bring it up for consideration.
Yeah, I think it could be, just off the top of my head, I think it could be. My mind went to as long as they don't assume more authority than what we grant them. So we'd have to spell it out in the organization part of it.
I'd look at it just like the 911 advisory board and or other advisory boards, mayor boards. Yeah, just gives it holds the leadership accountable too, because then they have to say, well, I need to make sure I'm tracking what I'm doing so I'm gonna have that information to share with people.
And the transition, I mean, you mentioned how many BSOs we've had in the last couple of years, and the transition from one to another could be smoother as a result, but we're not directly involved in that work.
Okay, 10 o'clock, we have ARPA help discussion.
I don't know how long that'll take, but I mean,
Okay,
2 minutes.
sure.
Hard to get up.
So,
Who knows?
So, the streets.
We have orders around. District is named as strong as.
It's just coal mines that kind of have, as they go through the road. It's run 200 trucks a day out the road. We also right. Well, with them, so we were involved, this we have there. I'll find it, it's in our manual, but I think we need to have something more covering more. We can talk about it. Most reviews are good with that understanding. That's hard. I don't know if it's
I agree with you.
But if we have an development ordinance to,
I think we're state.
Yeah.
Right back. It hurts. I can tell on your face.
When I set for.
Right.
All right, let's do the ARPA/help discussion. Mayor, did you have something on that? I don't know if you did or Sandy did. I don't know that I have anything really to add.
I think one of the questions came up is, we're getting close, she can add more to it, but, the reporting period's about to expire, and we need to have some discussions, I guess, on to make sure that we're taking care of it correctly. I'm trying to speak on your behalf, Sandy.
On the help, makes me more involved.
So on that, that email that I sent about that they changed it again, does that make those reports any easier, or does that not have anything to do with it? Is the reporting still the same as when we looked at it that day in your office?
It's it depends on how you classify. If you classify something in a certain way, you have to know how you're gonna classify it, and then it drills down if you have to get into it further. But then you also have to know if we have revenue loss and we put it in county general, we have to track it because it's federal dollars on how we spent it. And you still have to spend it according to federal guidelines. So
where we thought, calling it revenue.
And
loss
Greg and I
would
were
be
under the
easier.
same impression, if it's revenue loss, you put it in revenue loss and
Correct.
it replaces your revenue, but that's not what they were telling us. Brooke and I had watched a webinar on Thursday afternoon, and it was like, you have to track it until it's spent. I was like, how are we gonna do this?
That was new, obviously. I mean, I think you, I, and a whole host of other people probably under the impression that once it came in as revenue loss, it went in general funds, and we use it like normal government money.
So I think that's why the audit money is gonna take so much, because of all you gotta track it all. And you have to know how you're spending it, and when you're spending it. So it's a little more in-depth, and they want a lot of internal controls on it, and if you give money to a sub-recipient, how are you gonna track that, and how are you gonna monitor that, and make sure they're spending it the way they said they would? And I know we have agreements in place, but it's a little more in-depth. And if we do give money to somebody like REC or what we're doing, do they have a SAMS? Are they registered in the SAM process for federal dollars, for bid awards? So it's a little more entailed than what we originally thought. So.
Did you have, was there a link for that webinar yet? That
They said they would give us a link to it, but I have not seen anything. Like I said, this was Thursday afternoon. So.
And what I brought up to the auditor and where I don't understand how a large unit, if they were giving 400 awards of $1,000 a piece to things, how they were gonna be able to track all of this. Because you could do, I mean, you could give money to employees, you could give money to the community, to businesses, you could.
There's 7 different categories.
There are a lot of areas where you could have spread this money into a lot of small amounts, and you'd have to account for every single one. It would be very burdensome.
It kind of seems to me that, I mean, we've already established some of the things we've talked about, the REC and the hotspots and Cocoa water and St. Anthony water and so forth, those are finished, so to speak. I mean, those are trackable, well, they're trackable, but we've made a decision as to where they go. The rest of it was revenue replacement. Now, there's millions of dollars in revenue replacement that, yes, we're gonna have to continue to track it. But the regulation on that is much easier or much more flexible than what it was before. So we're
The
gonna.
uses of.
The use of it is much more flexible than what it was before, to the point to where we could build a building. I don't know, I suppose we could build a road with it and so forth. And we're simply going to have to say, this money's gonna come from, okay, let's take a road, for example. If we build a road and we say, you know, it's gonna cost $1.5 million to build that road, well, let's take that $1.5 million from this revenue loss source, one item to track or one item to put toward that until that money is gone. And then we go back to the way we were operating before.
I agree with Pat, that your thinking is that we find a project that we're doing that's
big,
that's large and meets the standards.
Yeah.
We said, because in reality, the money
From one pocket to
is
the
in the
other.
same pocket of money that all the other money is, except to put on big.
It's just there's 7 categories and then there's subcategories underneath there that you have to classify all this money. It'll take you into, when you're in the report, then it'll take you in and you have to fill out the spreadsheets that I kind of sent you.
And I mentioned to them, if they need me to come in and help
Well, we got this week.
massage the language, I can. Because we talked about, you know, we put money down to have Baker Tilly help us, but they're gonna have to put in the same information that they're putting in. They're gonna have to get that information from us, so really, I don't know, in our discussion, it didn't sound like there would be much of a benefit to having them do it, is that right?
I mean, I think they're gonna ask us the same information, so we're gonna have to come up with it. So if we're coming up with it, we might as well enter it. I don't know, it's just.
The revenue loss part of it, you know, and as we said, you know, we find the project and I know you're gonna have to categorize it and all of that. The help money, that's gonna be more difficult.
Well, and that's one of the issues we're having right now is the help funds, there's no category for help.
Yeah.
So how do we put it in? And when I asked Baker Tilly, they were like, they needed to know what we're gonna do with it. And I'm like, we don't know what we're gonna do with it, that's the problem. I can't say it's for infrastructure.
What those investment strategies are and
So I did reach out to Kosciuszko County Thursday afternoon, but obviously she wasn't in, so
okay.
I told her I wouldn't be until this afternoon, so hopefully I can reach back with her.
And I know you and I talked, you think Okra, you know, are the other counties reaching out to Okra and saying, you know, you started this, help us get through
Well,
this.
I just ran out of time Thursday
Yeah.
afternoon, so, because this webinar was at 2:00, so.
Yeah, sure.
Just a lot of details here.
Did you have anything else on help, Mr. Rose?
Well, just the hiring of the, hang on just a minute, let me send you something. I just got a reply from Alex to my questions. And I just sent it to all of you again. But basically, he is now saying, if an individual is hired towards the health program, you will not be able to pay their wages and benefits from the 30% used. The 30% is for programs and projects only. So the health coordinator that we're planning to hire is going to have to be paid from county general, the revenue loss portion of that is eligible for that. But it's gonna have to be from county general, not from the 30% or the $1 million that we got from Okra, or that we, yeah. we'll get.
So we'll need to advertise for that, because that's not been advertised for.
Right. So,
Nor has it been created, right?
hasn't been created yet. They technically, or according to the grant, we have up to 12 weeks after the start date, which is July 1st, up to 12 weeks to bring that person on board. So we wouldn't have to bring them on board until, what is 12 weeks, 1st of October? Somewhere in that neighborhood. July, August, September, yeah, 1st of October. We wouldn't have to bring them on board until the 1st of October. It is advisable from their point of view, from Okra's point of view, and I think I agree with that, that we have them in place on July 1, so that they can go through all of the planning, if you will, the meeting, what is it, a 2-day meeting, 3-day meeting, something like that, in July, early July. So they can go through all of that and we'll get a much better head start on the whole process. So my advice would be is let's shoot for the July 1 or as close to the July 1 date as we can get to bring them on board. I'm thinking now that maybe we need to keep this at a part-time position starting going, in the beginning. I know we talked about transitioning this into a different role down the road, into an administrative assistant or commissioner assistant down the road. That's going to be difficult to balance. I think the salary for that with the city of Jasper, since the city of Jasper is a partner in this health program, even now that we're not allowed to use the 30%, I think it's even going to be difficult. We're going to have to somehow prorate that salary, I would assume, between Du Bois County and Jasper, based on the amount of ARPA funds that we're putting into the health program, so that they are working for both Du Bois County and the city of Jasper, and concentrating solely on the health program responsibilities. So I'm looking for.
I was gonna say, I believe that, I don't think the city of Jasper has had or has any intention of paying for the position. And I think that was partially with my discussions with them, saying that we would like you to be a partner in this with us. The county would, it would be a county job. I believe, I don't remember verbatim how I took, that's the general feel of how I took this was approached on initial meetings with them. This would be a county position, and the Jasper's a part of that.
I guess my assumption up front was that it would be a county employee. And if we made it a full-time employee, we would pay the benefits and all of that. But that the salary would be paid out of the health money, the 30% and $1 million. And that 30% is a contribution from Du Bois County and a contribution from the city of Jasper. And that it would simply come out of those funds.
Come out of that joint.
Yeah, come out of that joint bucket. But now it's not going to do that, according to unless something changes in what I'm hearing here this morning. I think we have to, if Jasper's going to be part of this program, we need to sit down and talk to him about it. And I can have that conversation with Mayor Vonderheide to see how we move forward on it.
Because if it was paid out of that joint fund, then
sure,
by default, they're paying part of it.
Right. Right. But they're going to get benefit. I mean, they're putting the 30% in, and they're going to get benefit out of it. I don't know how we balance that benefit if they're not paying part of the salary of this person. But we have to, and I go back to maybe we need to keep it at the part-time idea, just to keep it a little bit cleaner if we're going to share this with Jeff. I don't know. So I'm looking for suggestions or
I suppose
ideas
my
of how we
initial
move
thought
forward.
would be to, I guess it really depends who the person is that you hire. That would make a difference. If it's somebody brand new and fresh, you're gonna have, it's kind of like the sheriff's deputy situation. A guy that's been around for 3 years would know a lot more than you bring somebody fresh off the street and they're having to learn everything from the ground up. I guess I don't have a solid answer for you. I guess I hadn't ever assumed or haven't ever considered doing part-time. I thought we would bring them on when they were needed and they would dive in and give us, at least for that first $20,000 that the Oak Group's putting towards it, that when we hired them, we'd put them in for a year, that $20,000 would pay part of their salary, and after that year, we would figure it out or make a determination of what value that person has. Do you have a thought, Mr. Hofstadter?
Not really. I mean, it seems like Jasper should participate. If they're not gonna participate, that makes it a little bit more complicated, because they are gonna derive some benefit from it. So,
Yeah,
if
and
we're gonna partner on this program, we partner on the program, not we do all the work and they get part of the benefit. Or we pay all the salary and they get part of the benefit, or, however you wanna look at it. And not throwing out that 30% doesn't pay for part of it. Yeah, I mean, it's getting muddy.
It's very convoluted.
I mean, it's, I guess you could say that the city of Jasper views this as their 30% simply being a grant to the county. And then we run the whole program from the county's point of view. That's another way of looking at it. But if they're going to have, there's going to be my understanding is there's going to be a health committee, core committee, and Jasper will have some participation in that committee. And would have, from their point of view, would have expectations that these strategic investment initiatives would include projects in the city of Jasper, or that would directly benefit the city of Jasper. So,
Well, maybe just, if you want to, have a discussion with the mayor, if you'd like, and we can bring it up next meeting again. Yep, I don't have anything else to add on that. But yeah, we do have a core team that's county council or city council person, the mayor, the county clerk treasurer, or the city clerk treasurer, and then a commissioner council person, Sandy, and another person. But anyway, we do have a core committee. Jasper makes up probably three sevenths of it.
which is the way I would have expected it to be. Because they're putting in their 30% and their portion, or $1 million from Okra, portion of that should benefit Jasper.
Absolutely, yep. Anything else we need to discuss on that today? Or you just want to?
I'll have a conversation with Mayor Butterhead and whoever from the city who would like to be involved in that, and we'll get their thoughts on it.
Okay. All right, we still have a highway engineer report?
Martha, do you want to just drop those off and I can give them to Carla?
I'm gonna get him to Carl.
Oh,
I can wait.
okay. It's the claims for solid waste that's what this got for me.
Thank you.
I know. Like 3 hours later.
Okay, so the city of Jasper approached us last week, on 47th Street, which is R400, turns into R400 North. They have a culvert that's going bad, it's currently around CMP corrugated metal pipe. It does need to be replaced, just for longevity, fees we have to put them in. I suggested we put in a cast in place box culvert. Sorry, here, a little red tape, I didn't really coordinate very well, yep.
The red line.
Yeah, that's where it's at. I do agree that it does need to be replaced. So Steve and I both agreed, we have to get your formal approval for us to, obviously in the city right away. Before we go in there and do it, the city will have to approve it as well, because we play Cume Bridge, we handle the Cume Bridge tax. They approach us for any culvert work that's above their control, and then we take care of it, we pay for it out of Cume Bridge. That's why we accept, so.
What's the standard on that? When do we take over?
When they request, they can handle it in-house, they usually take care of it. Whenever it gets out of their control and out more than what they can spend, they come to us.
I was always under the impression that there was
I don't know.
a length of the bridge or something like that.
No, it's been different for a long time. We've done everything from 30-inch pipes up to bridges. So the bridges are directly under my control. I have all the say in those. Anything over 20 feet, those are under the county control. Anything under, they can approach us if they can come.
Okay.
Usually bridges, structures.
20 feet is what I was
Yeah.
in my mind.
Yeah. Those are the ones that are directly under our control.
Okay.
So what it is,
But
so
this is our responsibility.
it will be, if you guys say it, it will be. It should be, let's put it that way, in my opinion.
In other words, we say no, what happens?
Then they'll take care of it themselves, but they're requesting our help. We've never turned it down before. This is more of a formality to take care of.
We've done projects.
We get funding to do these kind of things.
And on the county side, we use Cume Bridge for all pipes.
Yep. So, just requesting your approval and permission to do that. Then the city will obviously get their approval to allow us to go in there and tear out the road. But this will not happen due to our workload till next year, next summer, summer 23. We're gonna wait till school's out before we do it, being so close to the middle school and elementary school. There's a lot of buses that travel that, so we close that road over. And I have 3-4 box culverts and 2 deck replacements scheduled for our bridge crew for this year. So trying to get it in this summer will not happen. So and they're okay, we're good with it, but just letting you guys know.
I'll move that we approve highway staff to begin the design and work on the replacement of the culvert on 47th Street.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, so I'll deal with the city so they can get their stuff done, then I'll get started on design and have it ready to go for next year. Like I said, I know it's a long way out, but due to our workload, I don't think this jumps any ahead of all of ours we've got. Next thing, pre-con meeting was held last week, Tuesday. During the meeting, they are going to start in the northeast corner. So what they did with the courthouse, they split it into quadrants. They're gonna do everything in that quadrant from the courthouse to the buildings on the very outside. Everything will happen in that quadrant. When they're done, they'll go to the northwest quadrant and do that one. Then once they get done with that north half, then they will take a break because they'll be done at Thanksgiving. From Thanksgiving through the new year, nothing will happen. Then they'll start up in January to get started on the south half. So just so you guys know, that's what's gonna happen. With being the northeast corner, the ramp will be involved. I informed Scott, who will take care of informing everybody in the courthouse, which is good. For elections, it actually works out best for the elections too, because they will start after the primary is all wrapped up. So we don't have to worry about this building here. And they'll be done with this quadrant before the early voting for the general. So, which is great. So it allows her to do it. Now, obviously, things can change, things happen. I told Amy to be flexible with me, but I'll give her information as soon as I can get it if something happens. But as of right now, it should work out well that this quadrant here should be done prior to any early voting downstairs. There will be bi-weekly construction meetings. I think they're on, what were they? Wednesday is at 10. You guys that want to attend, you're more welcome to, obviously, but I'll take care of them all, so it won't be a big deal at all.
It's the same as the jail.
Is it?
Well, they're every 2 weeks.
Okay.
This is probably every 2 weeks.
I don't know if we hope, if it's the same week or opposite week. That's really all that we've got. So obviously, if you guys have any questions, let me know. The wall schedule, like I said, Jaminski's, they were scheduled for May. I informed Regal of what's going on there. They really didn't think it was going to be a big concern due to where the barricades are going to have to be. Jaminski can work around them. They said it shouldn't be an issue. And no, ideally, Jaminski will be in and out in a week, maybe 2 tops, so it shouldn't hold them up at all.
So there's no traffic on the square while they do this work?
For 347. So whatever area is closed, they will not be able to drive through.
So like when they close the northeast section here, I mean, they're not gonna reverse the flow of traffic around the square, so this will be a barricade
You won't,
here.
yeah, they'll actually probably barricade down here somewhere where you can't even get up there, because they have to do work down here too.
Yeah.
When I say northeast quadrant, they'll split this road in
All
half.
the way around here.
Yeah,
So,
It's an exit only then.
yep, correct, correct.
Yeah.
And they won't not be able to get on the square from here.
It'll be a noisy nightmare.
Working and all will be affected in that quadrant.
Correct. And then they'll have everything in besides the asphalt surface when they leave the quadrant. And then whenever all 4 quadrants are done, then they'll put the surface in to kind of clean it up and close it all up. So that's just an update. Like I said, I'll give you those as I come through. Hopefully they'll work out for meetings and keep you guys informed. Paving, nothing yet. Next meeting we'll have open bids. Everything was sent out to pavers. I know that Caleb sent out all the pamphlets to them. Every one of them we sent out to, wanted to see them. And then I'm looking for a schedule from CNR. They said they'll have one too end of the week. And that's all I got, unless you guys have something for me.
The community crossing, have you applied for those already? Is that already?
Yeah, we're waiting.
We're waiting to hear.
Just waiting to hear one way or the other.
Okay.
We were told.
314, is that? No. These are from last year.
Those are from last year. Those are the ones that we applied for back in November.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones we applied for in January, they're supposed to be released in April, so we'll see.
I didn't ask Steve earlier, but I guess the fixing of potholes here and there, I mean, is that an ongoing thing starting now, or does that wait till it gets a little warmer? Or
Ongoing.
What are we doing about chip seal, upgrading gravel to chip seal this summer? Where are we at? Is that down in the Holland area?
The Holland area and 550 west from Keshner Bridge south to the township line.
Okay, and when you say the Holland area, what road is that again?
775 west. That would go from 900 south to Holland Road southwest.
I think that's the one I was thinking about, yeah. That's the one that Jim Meyer was talking to you about, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought that was up this year.
Should we
That's
have
the Ridge Road,
this
yeah,
year?
southern part.
And then I believe Cusco North.
Okay.
Any other questions for Iowa? I don't know. Yeah, just if you could, whatever those meetings are scheduled, you know what Wednesdays are, send it to the board. So
Yeah,
I'll
I'll send you calendar invites or something so you guys.
I still have not received anything from Gossett, so I'm waiting on that. I did send you all a quote on the switch light that's ending in the summer. I spoke with Mike Priestner, President of Council, about declaring this an emergency and moving forward, if that, so they can get this thing ordered, so we can get it in the next 90 or whatever days. It's all up to you on how you want to proceed. If you want us to continue or.
You both remember what they're talking about. It's a piece of, to
This switch-
keep our system
The
operating.
switch is at end of life this summer.
Yeah. Computers, yeah.
I don't have the funding, but like I said, I talked to President Kleesner about it, and we can declare an emergency to move forward and then go with the funding.
Because on one hand, it's not an emergency because it's still functioning, but if it stops working anytime between now and the time we do it,
Well,
it's
it's
an
not
emergency.
it's not even that it quit functioning, it's that it's taking so long of a lead time to get these parts. He's thinking 90-day minimum. So to get this thing ordered is our problem.
I'm satisfied with the, giving consent for them to move forward with whatever they need to do to make it happen. And Mr. Schneier was involved too with the email stream of what we have to do,
Correct.
bidding wise, and it's.
From a procurement standpoint, this is the final process we're going through.
Yeah, I did see the emails and followed along with that, and I'm okay with that.
Okay, so if you want anything more formal than that, or just you have our consent to move forward.
And then are you gonna sign this, or what do I have to do?
I can.
The Du Bois Strong meeting next week. I heard back from Elmer, or if you are thinking of going. 'Cause I heard yours maybe. Where were you gonna go? No?
I get 2 tickets as a member as well. That's all that money, I don't even get there.
There's no dinner, it's just hors d'oeuvres and, or appetizers and,
And it's right next to,
yeah, it's
the
in the
hotel.
library.
It's at the library.
I'd like to watch it without going if it could be streamed. If you'll go and report back to us, then I'll just go with that.
Have you,
And there's no table, is
you
there?
go or not?
For what?
That the Du Bois Strong annual meeting
When is it?
next Thursday on, I don't have it, I don't have it.
It's afternoon, not 4
It's in the
o'clock
after,
or
yeah, it's
5
like 4 o'clock or
o'clock.
something like that. It's not a dinner anymore.
Oh, okay.
And really, it looks like it's a half-hour networking, a half-hour event, and then a half-hour of networking is how they've got it. Am I right? So it does look like there's a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah, there'll be, you're right, there'll be a presentation after the networking period, there'll be a presentation, there may be easels with, placards or something like that, to where people mill around and they talk about during the network period. Then there'll be a presentation period, and then after that again.
The county has 16 seats,
How many people do we have going?
hardly any.
5:30, I've got 5:30 on the calendar.
I have 4 so far.
5 to 6:30.
It's on, I think it's on
Yeah, that
Tuesday.
worked from 5 to 5:30.
It's on Tuesday evening. No,
How about this? Put me down for maybe. I will email you either way by end of day to tell you what.
well, they've kind of changed it. It used to be a luncheon, but.
Yes, no, they decided to go this route.
I just need to RSVP, so.
I have to pick the land on my desk.
I think there's some drink tickets involved with it,
I have no idea.
that sort of thing, hors d'oeuvres
I
and
don't
drink
think they're
tickets.
gonna get the response they had during the lunch hour. It's a meeting.
Anybody else have any business?
I don't have any.
Mr. Brown?
The cybersecurity, we briefly talked about that earlier. I'm not real sure how we just let them come to us and see what their needs are and what they need from us, or is there, my thought was that maybe somebody ought to be a point person there, and my thought was it might be Tammy, I don't know. As a logical person here, when they need something from the county, that's the person they go to, so that we're not all over the place on it. I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that?
I would agree that that's probably how it will work out. They will be driving the bus and we will participate as they have.
But there probably ought to be somebody that they know that they go to them and get directed further, so. I'll say something to Tammy about that, and I'll reply to that email from them, and well, you already replied a little bit to it, and give them Tammy's contact information if she's agreeable, and go from there. I mean, we're all gonna be involved in it, especially Sandy and,
Well, Tammy and I work,
and-
I mean, I'll work with Tammy.
yeah, and Marky and Amy, especially. But, yeah, okay.
Public comment? Hearing none, we'll close the meeting.
Okay. Well, let me sign those checks.